Existential dread gets into your head, gets into your bed with you. Awful little thoughts tie you up in knots. Everybody's got a few. Endless are the nights, filling you with frights, till you turn the lights back on. Reoccurring pains, driving you insane. You hear but yet your brain is gone. When you turn around, there's nothing to be found. There's nothing pulling down on you. Nothing like a ghost, the horror show you host, that leaves your mind the most to do. If I shook you now, would it get you out, or would you only shout at me? Are you in a dream, or somewhere in between? It's never what it seems to be. And you know that there's no one there, but you still get scared sometimes. And you know that it's in your mind, push it right back through the blinds. Cotton are the sheets, tugging at your feet, and you are caught in something else. I can never love anyone enough to drag them back from out of hell. Take another breath, but scare yourself to death. There's no one here but you and I. Try and take control, 'cause you're the only soul that fits the hole your head's inside. No one else will know the places that you go when you're going down and down. Words cannot explain, you're in a hurricane that keeps you going round and round. I prefer the day, if we both could stay, if the sun could rise again. We never know the fear that always finds us here when the day is at an end. And you know that there's no one there, but you still get scared sometimes. And you know that it's in your mind, push it right back through the blinds. And you know that there's no one there, but you still get scared sometimes. And you know that it's in your mind, push it right back through the blinds. Destroy your desk, it's useless now. Build yourself a fort too high. Close your eyes and crawl inside. You're sailing on the pumpkin tide. The ship you're on is yours alone. The wind will push your sweet, sweet ride. But this foreign wave, just to purify, you're sailing on the pumpkin tide. Focus on the sound of my voice. You are Without it, you would surely die. But even that's just another lie. Sailing on the pumpkin tide. I was about 15. I was walking the beach. I was racing away. It knocked me off my feet. I fell into the tide. It spat me back on the sand. I laughed without a clue how lucky I was to land. It's been a long, long time since my life was spared. It's been a long, long time, but I'm still not scared. It was the dawn of man. I held the bone in my hand. I was as hungry as death, wandering through the sand. I met a wild boar. My bone came down with a crack. I tasted flesh and blood and swore I'd never look back. It's been a long, long time, but I had just begun. It's been a long, long time out in the African sun. It's been a long, long time since I learned that skill. It's been a long, long time since my very first kill. If anyone's out there to see what we have done.
Hello. Are you muted? You are muted.
Car battery!
I don't know. Are you still muted? Oh.
Hello, 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 hello. Okay, so that works, but...
Ba ba ba? I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. I've been able to hear you the whole time. Zoe knows what's wrong and she's fixing it. What's wrong is that her mic has quit in protest.
Hello, hello, hello. Okay, okay, check and hear me now too. And okay, yeah, okay, now everything is good. Hi.
Hello.
Hi everyone. Happy Homestuck Day. Jody,
Yeah?
are
Do
you...
you want me to say it too? I don't know anything about Homestuck. I know I've tried to read it 3 times and failed. So.
I don't know if you've looked at stream yet.
I have looked at stream.
Oh, okay.
I expected this. This was
Oh,
expected.
you did? Okay, okay. Well, very good. Then. Very nice.
I,
Anyway, hi. Sorry, go on.
About 7 hours ago, while I was at work, Zoe said to me, "Oh, I assumed everyone was just sick at Homestuck by now," and I was like, "Why would that be the case?" And now I've noticed that Tumblr is basically an unusable website, so I can
Yeah.
see why someone might get annoyed at Homestuck.
Yeah, well, I mean, it used to be more, but we're not going to get into that.
Unusable?
Oh, no, I mean, well, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Anyway, hi! For the occasion, we will still be playing Signalis. We're not gonna play like a Homestuck thing or anything. But for the occasion, I'm using my Homestuck costume for Gauntlet Queen. Cause that's fun. Cause I have it, you know?
Is there anything Yuri about Homestuck? Can we wedge
Oh yeah,
this
very
in
much,
some way?
very much so. Homestuck has some very strong Yuri in it, as a matter of fact. Some of it also, it has toxic Yuri and it has just like very good pure Yuri, Puri, if you will.
I only ever see like Yaoi fan art of Homestuck, so that's good to know.
You do?
Oh
Yeah,
occasionally.
I guess Dave and Carcat. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
Also, halfway through the countdown, I removed all of the songs from the Bowman playlist that he did not make for Homestuck. So it's only Homestuck Bowman music right now.
He made a song for Homestuck.
He made an album for Homestuck, and also several songs specifically for Homestuck, including Suburban Jungle, I believe, which is a very famous one.
Fucked up.
He
I thought it
also
was just a
one of them
radiation
is
he made song to.
Problem Sooth also, so you should like that one.
Oh, nice. I like Problem Soup.
Yeah.
Happy Problem Soup, though.
No, that was last month.
Fuck, you're taking it over. This is my day now.
Homestuck has a picture of a roller coaster from a Japanese theme park that went defunct in 2006. Well, there you go. Fascinating. God, this song is so good. Did you ever get so Yuri you read historical / fake about you and your bestie's ancestors? That's the thing that happens in Homestuck. It's good. Is it / fake or is it just actual historical documents though? Huh? Maybe it's much to consider.
I don't like where this is going.
It does also have horses. What, you don't like Yuri?
I don't like / fic about you and your bestie's ancestors. That sounds weird.
It's okay. Homestuck is weird.
Is / fic... Am I thinking the right thing? Is / fic erotic? What's
Maybe.
/ fic mean?
I guess I'm not sure myself. Well, anyway. It does also have horses. They are not unimportant. But
Unlike Guild.
unlike Guild Wars, all of the horses that were in Guild Wars went to Homestuck. But we're not here for Homestuck specifically. It's also here, and we can enjoy that together. But we're here for Signalis. It's been a little bit since I last played it. Last time we met a male, and we quickly said,
Fucked
fuck
up.
this guy. And then we got a shotgun, as if the game was to say, don't worry. You're gonna get to. Use this shotgun to kill this guy.
You got
Hopefully.
the wrong order. You got the shotgun, then you met the guy, didn't you?
I don't know.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure the guy said "fuck you" and pushed you down an elevator shaft.
Oh yeah, no, he sucks. He definitely sucks. Such doesn't have to be erotic, but there is a tendency towards that. I see. Learning so much. But beep. I'm going to put on a different playlist. I'm going to center my voice. Ha ha ha. There we go. And then we're going to get some eggies in. So, chat, if you have but one little point, you can already spend it on an egg that will go on the egg stack. And then we build a really big egg stack together. Yay! Wow! And wouldn't you believe it? The first egg of the day comes to us from Vex Fidel. Wow! And then we've got Green Clunk, Dynalope.
Yo,
There you.
that's a me, Mario.
It's a you. Just some trans girl. Soda Vampire. Wibless. Lucina of Stardust. Muzzle Flash. Oops. Muzzle Flash. KQ Gray. Biting Irish. Mike Loves Rabbit. And Mecha Fox Girl. Thank you for the starting eggs.
Quality eggs there, game.
Oh, Lucky Mix 13. I never know. I will say, I never know how you're supposed to pronounce like the gender neutral version of Mr. and Miss. I always say mix.
I was not aware there was a gender neutral version, if I'm honest.
Well, it exists.
Fair enough.
Me neither, says the person who uses it. Alright, great, cool. I will continue to say mix. I do think mix is kind of fun.
Mix it up.
What is this going to do? I found an egg. It goes on the stack. That's all it does.
Yeah.
And together we, you can do one per stream. And together we can put as many eggs on stream as we can. I saw a TikTok by someone named Tape who said that they like that it's pronounced mix because then people call them mixtape. That's awesome. That's very good.
You can tell that they're gender neutral because they did the old thing of looking slightly to the left and picking a name. It always happens. It's always the case.
Bird Lover Jackson, thank you for your egg. Mix is fun because it makes you sound like you're talking about fighting games. A little bit something like that as well, yeah? Now, I don't think I have much else to say. No, I do. I was outside yesterday and it was awesome.
Fucked up.
It was so good. Why is it fucked up? I think it was
There's
so
nothing
good.
out there for you. It's
Fuck
only
you,
darkness
fuck
and
you,
evil.
fuck you, fuck you. It's awesome. Maybe try going outside during the daytime.
Oh, is that what I'm doing wrong?
I think so, yeah. I'm gonna show photos of it because I think it was nice. Also, we've got very good music right now for looking at some beautiful nature photos. The photos look darker than it was, but that's okay. Now behold,
I can't wait to behold it.
a field. Wow.
Oh, that does look darker.
Yeah, it looked quite dark. I don't know why. It's weird. Bigger. There we go. Ooh.
Ooh.
No, but it was
Kind
fucking
of.
beautiful. Wow, I went geocaching with my sister and her girlfriend.
Oh, geocaching. Nice.
Yeah, which is a very nice thing to do.
I've only ever found geocaches accidentally.
That's funny.
I keep accidentally finding them just because I'm naturally curious. I see a little nook in a tree. I'm like, oh, what's in there? I was like, wait, what? There's things in here.
I think that's maybe the best way to do it, honestly. Anyway, yeah, there was beautiful fields, and there were the beautiful. I don't remember what they're called in English. They're called horse flowers.
Daffodils.
Daffodils. Thank you. It was gorgeous and beautiful, and it was so nice. And at one point we walked into the zoo. We wanted to grab some water. So basically, like, there was a zoo close by this, like, on the outskirts of the city where we were walking. Dandelions.
wait,
No, they're
those are- yeah,
dandelions. You're
yeah,
right. They're
those
not
are
daffodils. They're
dandelions.
dandelions. That's it. Thank you. So there was this. There's a zoo on the outskirts of the city which is where we were walking, and we wanted to refill our water bottles. So we went there, and it was like around closing time. So we just walked in, like they weren't like stopping people at that point.
Okay.
But then someone near the entrance was, just sort of like who had. Nou, maar als ik dit nou vertel, dan kunnen mensen niet meer wat ik vertel.
Oh, I wanted to
En
know
dat
about the story.
dat vind ik jammer.
Dat vind ik jammer?
Nou, ja, dat vind ik jammer nou. Want het is niet, weet je wel, dat is toch een leuk verhaal om aan mensen te vertellen. En dan kan het niet als ik nou Nederlands moet praten. Nou, nou, dat vind ik niet leuk.
They will never know about the zoo and the animals.
Nou, hoe ga ik jullie nou vertellen over de zoo? Okay, alright, we're done. So as I was saying, I don't. Well, there's no Coronado. I didn't know that. Well, anyway, as I was saying, so we just walked into the zoo, and then just after we came in, an employee who just happened to be walking there asked us if we'd already been there, today, if we'd already paid to get in. And we said, oh, we're just gonna grab some water and go to the bathroom. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he just walked off. So theoretically, we could have just walked into the zoo and looked at the animals, but we didn't because I don't know, I guess we're nice.
Because you're good people and you won't steal from a zoo?
Yeah, because we're good people. And also, when we came back out of the bathroom, which was right at the entrance, they were feeding the penguins because everybody's exploding all over the place.
I can't believe this.
Because there's penguins right outside the entrance, right inside, I mean. And so they were feeding them, and now we got to look at that, even though we didn't pay. And now the penguins would line up in a little queue and get their food, a little fishy, and then walk to the back of the queue.
I can't believe this. I can't believe you looked at penguins for free. You're not a good person at all.
I'm a devious little creature.
Fucked up and evil. You stole from that zoo.
I cannot be. I have no morals.
They should do the thing, when Mr. Krabs reverses the TV and it sucks it out that guy. They need to do that to you. They need to make you forget seeing the penguins eat.
Yeah. I should have taken some photos of the penguin. Should have done that. Anyway, I also have one other photo, which was in the city itself, which is these. Also very, very pretty.
Cherry blossoms.
I don't think that's what these are.
Aren't they?
I don't think so, because there's a tree.
Oh, it's the wrong type of tree.
Yeah, there's a cherry blossom tree near where I live, so I see that sometimes.
They're just normal blossoms.
I think these are just, they're not normal. All plants are special and beautiful. But yes.
Some plants are normal.
All plants are queens!
Some plants are normal. Dandelions, for instance, normal plants. Daisies, very normal.
If she performs photosynthesis, she's a thought!
I'm glad you didn't take pictures of those penguins, because then you would have been stealing infinite money from that zoo.
It's,
Every time you look at that photo would be another bunch of money stolen from
oh,
that zoo.
that's true. That's how it works. You're right.
It's true.
Sorry, Maz. Hey, but that's the meme, right? People stealing your jokes. I'm glad we're still keeping that running joke going. Anyway, so that was wonderful. That was a very nice time that was had. I love spring. And then I had a
is beautiful.
falafel wrap for dinner. That was my yesterday.
The world is beautiful.
It's true. It's because of all the plants.
Was the falafel wrap beautiful?
I mean, I don't know if I'd call it beautiful, but it tasted really good.
Excellent.
Quite good. I feel like the ingredients could have been mixed better.
The world is full of
filling.
joy and wonder.
The world is full of pretty okay falafel wrap.
Mediocre falafel wrap. I keep saying falafel.
Velociraptor.
Falafel. The world is full of mediocre velociraptors.
Nuh-uh, velociraptors are... all velociraptors are beautiful.
Just like
All
the plants.
velociraptors are queens.
All velociraptors
what's
are
going on?
plants.
Cheese.
No cheese for you. Is it going
Cheese.
inside your head? Is it on the back of your head?
Okay, I got it now.
Please rotate yourself so you can see if the cheese is on the back
Wait,
of your head.
I was trying. It's definitely not back there. Oh, wait, on the back of my head. No, it's not
Yeah.
there. Good zoom.
Where did it go?
What the fuck is going on? Wait.
She's eating it. She's eating the cheese. Delicious.
Ah,
Oh
no. I'm like some sort of fucked up bird now.
no. Me when I couldn't get my VTubers mouth rigged in time.
Okay. We got it.
Are you sure? Maybe put them on the horns.
Just like Vriska.
Okay.
Perfect.
Whiska's a name I recognize.
Yeah, I imagine so. Miskin egg, which is Ritsutera's egg. Beep, there we go. Thank you. Cheese Boss is a valid Homestuck name.
What the
Good.
fuck?
Very good. She's eating the cheese before I can even get to it. This is so fucking sad. I'm so sorry, Maz. I just, you know, as a Dutch person, I just have that craving, you know. I can't not. Anyway. It is time to play the video game.
There's a video game.
No, there
Oh.
is not. I'm so sorry that I deceived you all.
For today's stream, Zoe's reading the entirety of Homestuck. She will not stop until she has finished.
Well, I believe it was maybe it was last year, maybe the year before that Luke and I were playing through. We were in the middle of a playthrough of Elden Ring, and we had a stream planned on Homestuck Day that year, coincidentally.
Oh, okay.
So I got Rose to also be there to just sort of sit in for fun, is what I told Luke. But they then read Homestuck as we played.
The entirety of it, obviously.
Well, not the entirety. That would have taken literal months.
I don't think. I think you could read Homestuck in a day.
I don't know about that.
1 sec. Time to beat Homestuck. Let's see.
Elburio. Thank you. Yes.
The top result on DuckDuckGo for time to beat Homestuck is how to read Homestuck. 8 steps with pictures on WikiHow. Number 1, be prepared. Reading Homestuck is no easy feat. It'll take a large amount of time.
It's a game. Come on. It will. Yes, it's true.
Set aside time just as you would for reading every novel, but be prepared to set aside much more.
Why isn't this working? What the hell? Oh, is it broken again? No, it's just what?
Step 3, take notes. Homestuck is filled with important details and you will be confused. Write a few sentences every 50 pages.
Sick. What? OBS, why are you such a bitch? Fuck. Oh,
I hate OBS. Worst program ever made. 0 out of 10.
it keeps fucking up my goddamn captures, my video captures.
What, like, constantly?
Yeah.
Or is it just Signalis?
No, it's just a lot of it.
Huh.
It keeps breaking and for some reason.
I blame the only man.
I blame the beast.
What's the beasts?
Heaven or hell.
Oh.
What is going on?
I mean, it popped up for a second.
Well, yeah, but that was something else. I was just sharing my entire screen to see if that still worked.
Or read Homestuck once I'm caught up on One Piece. Good luck with that. I think you might literally die.
You can catch up on One Piece. It'll just take a really, really long time. Really, 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 really long.
New drinking game. Take a shot for every page of One Piece you've read.
What if I do this? Does this work? Okay, so that worked, but I want it to be... What? So I know you can see it. I know you can see the window. So, ow. So why when I use my hotkey does it not work anymore? What is going on? What even is the hotkey? Like, it's not gonna... fuck! Whatever. And wait, this one... Oh, wait. Alright. Well, I got it, at least. We can watch it. It's whatever, I guess. Am I missing eggs? Yes, I am missing an egg. Twinkle Choose, thank you very much for starting the second egg stack. Hooray. Okay, which game?
Hell yeah. I'm mostly
I-
reading the Wikipedia page for Homestuck.
Alright.
I was trying to work out how long it is. Apparently it's over 8,000 pages.
Yeah, I think it is technically the longest piece of literature of all time.
What the fuck? I thought this Fallout Equestria.
I think it's the Smash Brothers fanfic is like the second highest or something.
800,000 words. I haven't read that much in my life. That's too many. I'm joking, I've definitely read more than that.
Yeah, well, you say that now, but it's too late.
What do you mean it's too late?
It's too late. You already said the other thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I couldn't take back a joke.
Nope, no take backsies.
Okay.
It's more like it was pretty clear to us all that you weren't joking when you said that.
Shut up.
And you tried to salvage it, you know? Alright, so what were we doing last time?
You're trying to make me look bad.
Not particularly trying.
I read.
It just kind of happens.
Shut up.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're fine. I don't actually mean to hurt you or anything.
I fully believe that Signalis has an effect on you that turns you evil. Like every time you boot up Signalis.
I try not to.
I know, joking.
I don't want to be bad.
No, I know, joking.
I don't want to normalize being evil.
Then why'd you have that redeemed?
It's funny. Where do we go?
As I say, not what the redeem tells you.
The Smash Bros. Fanfic got eclipsed a few years back. Oh shit. As in, like, surpassed? By what? I remember the last thing we did was activate something that supposedly would help us get around better, but
I'm gonna be honest, I cannot remember.
it has been 2 weeks. There's a yellow door there, so let's try going over there.
That's too many weeks.
Wait, that's just the door with the key. Never mind.
2 weeks is more weeks than there have ever been.
That's true. I agree. Now I am officially sick of the Yildiz next door. They've been listening to that stupid song non-stop since the piano room was locked on. If I hear it one more time, I'm going over there and smashing that stupid tape to pieces. I wonder if there's a way that we can borrow a key so we can get into the dorm and put it into this madness. Right, okay, well, we've already read that one. That does... Okay,
I think we should do some lore theorizing. What do you think the stupid song is?
Young Cat?
It's Caramel Dancing.
Not a, that one, no one could ever think that one's stupid. Young Cat I could see some people think is bad. They're wrong, but I could imagine it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
How do you
They're not actually listening to any
shit.
song. Damn. What they've done is they've planted a speaker in his room that constantly plays Nyan Cat over and over again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just Nyan Cat.
It's just Nyan Cat, but they're not listening to it. They just planted a speaker to annoy him.
As far as I can tell, in 2019, the Smash Bros. Fanfic was surpassed in length by a Kantai collection. What is that? That does kind of ring a bell. Oh, it's that boat girl thing, right? And that had since been surpassed in length by a fic called the fucking Loud House.
What the fuck is the Loud House?
It's a cartoon about a boy and his, I want to say 12 sisters? I don't know.
That's too many sisters.
Yeah. I don't know if it's good or not. I just know that there's one of the sisters is goth and she's in the Nickelodeon Smash Bros. Game.
Huh.
Oh, who's Beyond?
Beyond
city.
will burn.
Okay. Hi.
Beyond.
Beyond. I remember in high school the Nyan Cat website that plays the music on loop, and it was a challenge to listen to listen as long as possible, and everyone that taps out at any point is lame and a coward, because I can listen forever. You are very strong, KQ. Great, good job.
Honestly, same.
Oh.
Like I've at some point like just put on like 10 hours of Nyan Cat in the background and listened to it like nearly all day, and like barely even noticed.
Do I want to try killing them or sneaking past?
I believe you got through here without killing them earlier.
I mean, it seems that way because like I have them on the map. Maybe I came through here though. You know?
31,047,476,030
I'm okay. Oh,
words.
right.
Oh, you need a flashlight. Did you pick up a flashlight?
I don't think I did.
Stop yelling at us, it's mean.
I kind of feel like you guys weren't here before. If I'm gonna be honest.
No, they were there before.
Ah, were they?
They were, I remember them from last time, yeah.
Ooh. Oh, hey, there's a... Oh. I'm okay.
I
We
don't think
might
you're okay.
we might be reloading a save, gang.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a camera. I forgot about that. Let's read this note. Lighting my right. Okay, yeah, that's just about needing a flashlight.
Sorry I have to tell you this, gang, but shit might be fucked.
Oh,
Shit's fucked,
yes, it
gang.
is. Oh, dude, the Loud House one is also a self-insert. Like,
All the more power to them, to be honest.
no, yes, absolutely. But when I think about like, because the Loud House is like about a bunch of kids. So when I think about self-inserts in like a thing about a bunch of kids, I think about the self-insert that one of the writers on the new, like the Powerpuff Girls reboot
I know
had.
what you're talking about, yes.
Yeah. So then
That's
I get a bit
weird.
worried.
Yeah. That might not more power to them until
Yeah.
I get more information.
Yes, exactly. If it's not that, great. Have fun. But don't be fucking weird, you know?
I will say this, I looked up how long it was and saw some of the tags and I don't like them at all. Oh no. No
Oh.
power to them. 0 power to them.
Oh god, no power.
Oh, so we're killing them.
Got the power.
Cut the power. It won't be the longest piece of fiction once I'm done with that hard drive. It'll be the fucking shortest in 0 words.
It'll be just a few words and they are nothing to see here. Move on.
Nothing to see here. I've deleted every.
It'll be we're better off without it, without this.
I've created a virus that specifically targets this fan fiction. Please, lay onto a computer, just in case. It also gives me your credit card information, but just in case.
I mean, wait, what about this post box?
It's
Do we need
fine,
like
it's
a key for
payment,
this or something?
it's payment for services rendered.
Post box key. Post box key. Post box key.
What, self-insert in Powerpuff Girls 2016?
All right, so
Do you want to explain? Yeah, you explain.
yeah, so there is a writer on that team who had a self-insert that was very clearly just like his head on like a small child body, who had a romantic relationship with Blossom,
Yes.
which is weird because Blossom is a toddler.
Yes.
And very specifically, this character is often depicted as very capable, strong, buff.
Yes.
And Blossom as like fawning over him and thirsting after him and stuff. It's not normal.
No.
That's not okay to do. That's a toddler. I don't care if this is like a crush that you had as a child that never went away. That's still fucking weird. Don't put it in the show.
Yep. Like, there was one scene in the show where he's very buff and shirtless and he's holding Blossom and it's very strange and uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yes,
and I
it
would
is.
like him to be deleted.
Yes, please. Is that show like gone? I hope it's over.
I hope the Powerpuff Girls just doesn't come back because they don't seem to be able to do anything good with it. Like, the original was good, and I think maybe one of the reboots was good for a little bit, but it
I
seems
mean,
to just...
there are only 2 quote-unquote reboots, which is the 2016 reboot, and then there is Powerpuff Girls Z, which is an anime adaptation
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah,
That
the
is,
anime one was good, wasn't it?
it's kind of funny. I don't know if I would say it's good. I'd have to watch it again, but it was kind of funny in its own way.
I remember seeing a bit of it a long time ago, and I remember it being alright, but maybe I'm misremembering.
When I watched it as a kid, I fucking hated it, but I had the wrong expectations for it. The thing
enough.
about it, I feel if you want to bring back Powerpuff Girls now, that'll be very tricky because Powerpuff Girls was the thing that made it so special is that it was fun and it had like cute designs and stuff, but it was also pretty damn violent a lot of the time.
Yeah.
For what it was. And I think if you want to do Powerpuff Girls now, you can't make it pretty damn violent for a kids show anymore. Because of woke. And
Can't do that anymore.
can't do that anymore. So the only way to do it then, it was called Whoop Ass Girls in pre-production, and instead of having added Chemical X, Professor Utonium accidentally added a can of Whoop Ass, which is very funny. Anyway, so if you can make it a kids show, you have to make it an adult show, and then you can make it violent again. But there's no way that if they make it an adult show now, that they don't go too far with it, you know?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
then you can't make it about kids anymore that are also just doing normal kids things and learning normal kids lessons, because then it would have to be a kids show. So then they take it too far into the adult direction, so that also doesn't work. You can't do it. it's
Can't
not
do it.
possible to make Powerpuff Girls as it was nowadays.
This country used to build railroads.
Yeah. Powerpuff Girls
right.
went into Invincible universe. Well, it's already in the Gorillaz universe. Isn't that good enough?
No, the gorillas are in the Powerpuff Girls universe.
Oh, right. Sorry, of course.
The Powerpuff Girls are here first, so it's
That's
their
true.
universe.
You're right. Oh, hello, corpse. Did I kill you?
Perhaps.
Oh well.
It's their
Hi,
universe,
Al.
we're just living in it.
Hell, it's open call stream. If you want to join and are able to, but no pressure. It would just be a fun excuse to hang out. But thank you, and Canberra for the eggs. And I will take a sippy, thank you. And thank you for giving AOL a shout out also. That is my dear friend who definitely deserves it.
Yay.
The trick is to make it for teens age 13 to 17. Still can't put in a bunch of blood though, can they?
The trick is to make it for me and me alone.
Yeah. Shutter gate handle, okay. Hey, I just got back from an anime con. Oh shit, did you have fun? Can I lay down
you
and
see
enjoy
an
the good
anime?
company? Did you see any anime? But yes, absolutely you should go rest up then.
Did you see any Funko Pops? I hear they're very prevalent these days.
Did you kill any?
Did you kill any Funko Pop?
Oh dude, cute Samus art. Oh please do show me. Okay, let's see, hold on a second. I'm gonna...
Take the shot. Oh.
There we go. Hooray. Is that like a super heal? What was that again? Single use injection syringe instantly restores a large amount of health. Cool.
Nice.
Cool poster. Star. The Gorillas may be in the Powerpuff Girls universe, but the Powerpuff Girls universe is in far north Queensland, Australia. What?
Is that true?
I don't think so. I think they're in America. Considering they have they're like a Captain America bootleg superhero. Or I guess that's, wait. Yeah, he's also in there. The Powerpuff Girls also share their, the Powerpuff Girls share their universe with Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. I'm pretty sure, because I think the superhero is in both. Or maybe I'm wrong.
There's a cinematic universe here.
I mean, Cartoon Network has always just had crossovers between their characters. They had the bumpers where all of their characters together basically live in Townsville, the city of Townsville. But I don't know how canonical those are per se. They're very fun. I love them. But there are specific episodes of Powerpuff Girls, I'm pretty sure, that have this team of superheroes in it that are also in Dexter's Laboratory. So that does connect those universes. Ooh.
No.
Billboards from Powerpuff Girls show up in ancient ruins in Samurai Jack every so often. Cool. So that's also canonical. Damn, Samurai Jack was so good, but so completely fucking different. It's just the amount of episodes that have so many very long, quiet stretches, no music, no action, not even any dialogue. It was so cool.
As a kid, I never watched Samurai Jack. Well, I still haven't, but I never watched Samurai Jack because I looked at Samurai Jack and was like, oh, this is for boys. And for some reason, that didn't register as odd in my mind.
I get it. That's fair. I never looked at things and thought, oh, this is for boys, so I don't care. But I did look at things that were, and then thought, oh, this is for girls. I want to watch it more now. So, which also did never register as weird in my mind.
That's weird that they never registered either in our mind.
I know. It's so funny to me how, I mean, I think part of it is maybe as a kid, things will happen, you'll either feel weird sticking to gender norms or specifically go out of your way not to stick to them or anything like that or whatever. But because you're still younger, it's not as ingrained in your mind yet, these the norms and stuff, so that's why it's not quite as weird. Maybe, and it can also just be the case of like, well, you haven't had the experiences yet that would allow you to consider your gender at all. So that's why you just sort of accept it all blindly, I would assume. Kind of messed up that Aku was around in Powerpuff Girls and did nothing to stop him. That's true, actually. That's so fucked up, but it's probably because he was busy in Asia, you know?
There was one fucking episode of Powerpuff Girls that I haven't had nightmares about for years.
Yo, fun. Let's hear it.
Yeah, it's the one where they fly too fast and accidentally travel to the future.
Yeah,
Turns out
dude, that
they've been gone
episode's so good.
It fucking scared me. I've still
I
not
know,
rewatched it.
I
don't
know.
want to watch it.
I think about that. When I think about Powerpuff Girls episodes, that's always one of the first to come to mind.
Yeah, and I hate it.
It's such a good episode.
I was like, oh, this is disturbing. I hate this.
It rules. It's so good. I
We have
love
very
it.
different definitions of rules.
It also disturbed me. I just think that that's
Punch him.
cool, I guess. Oh, fuck.
Oh, that's loud. What the fuck was that?
Hello, Piku.
Oh, hello, Piku.
Sorry, I forgot that was my join message.
It's fine. It's just loud.
Well, actually, I think it's a very good message. Can you send it to me?
Yeah, it's from a video that somebody did for explaining terrestrialization for Fluffy Barrage.
Oh, cool. Nice. I like it because it says punch him and then a bunch of
punch him.
punching noises. I thought you specifically did it because you're on my stream.
No, that's just my default join noise.
It's good though.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Everybody I do calls with says they hate it because it's so loud.
Everybody's fucking stupid.
It is loud though.
Dang!
Okay. I didn't think it was that loud.
Okay, fair enough.
Maybe I just have Piku turned down a bit. Let's see. Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, you know what? Just turn me down to nothing.
Just
Why?
mute you.
Anyway,
Who
hi.
even was that Piku bitch, anyways?
I don't fucking know, dude. Stupid. Cringe.
Here's that video, by the way, if you want to watch it later.
Yeah, thank you so much. But why don't... Who are you?
Where am I? Who am I?
Maybe
Wait a
if
minute.
you wreck your brain and try to explain to the audience your thoughts about who you might be, it'll help.
Okay. Well, I suddenly just remembered, so I'm gonna say it now.
Okay, great. Go forth.
I'm Piku. And I'm awesome.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Wait, I'm an Among Us.
You are.
You hired Among Us, yeah.
Hold on. I might have a better... Oh, I'm gonna use my sexful PNG. Check this out.
You what?
My sexful PNG.
You're sexful?
What's that
Yeah.
mean?
What's
Oh, look at me,
sexful?
I'm sexful.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain what that word means, please? I'm
Can you
confused.
just look at the screen and you'll understand?
Yeah, I'm
what
looking at it.
telling
I'm
you.
still not understanding.
Okay, well, that sounds like a you problem.
Okay.
It's cool art. I like it.
Yeah, it's nice.
Thanks, I drew it.
You did?
I drew that, yeah.
Yo,
drew
that's
this.
so
amazing.
cool. Nice job.
Thank you. I drew this for Fluffy Barrage.
Hell yeah, dude. That looks really good. Good job.
Thanks.
What's Fluffy Barrage?
It's a Pokemon tournament for VTubers that I help out with.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. And I have like a Caesar themed drip for this because I was on a villain team called the Caesar Sisters.
Nice.
Awesome. That's so cool. Hell yeah. Also, Jody, pick a Sonic character.
Ooh, difficult choice.
I want to pick a Sonic character.
Well, it hasn't been redeemed for you, Piku. I'm so sorry.
Absolutely. I want to pick a different one. I always pick Amy, but I want to pick a different one now.
Hello! Hi everyone! Hello! Thank you! Hi! Okay, Okay,
I'll
sorry.
go for Espio.
Okay, wow. That might be the least picked one.
I know, that's why I picked Espio.
Oh, nice.
I feel bad for the little guy.
Yeah. Don't patronize me. I sound kind of like Shadow. Don't worry about it.
You do sound exactly like Shadow.
Nuh-uh. Unlike Shadow, I am the ultimate ninja. Filling in
The ultimate ninja and the ultimate life form. What happens when they come together?
They kiss, obviously.
True love.
Does anybody ship Shadow and Espio?
Probably. I mean, they're both like edgy guys. So
Have
edge
they
lords.
ever interacted?
Yeah, in Sonic Heroes.
Yeah, that's true.
and
Piku, you
Shadow
get
the
to pick now
Hedgehog.
also.
Metal Sonic.
Okay. That makes sense. Also, a robot has your colors, kinda. So yes.
Also, Metal Sonic's my favorite.
Oh, good. Nice. All right. From S23 Protector Accommodations Management, Euler S2308 to S23 Service Cater ARAR S20 RAR XD S20 S2314 Item High Voltage Fuse Part Number. Your order for this replacement part has been approved and was processed by S23 Management. Please find enclosed the requested part for installation. Falk has specifically requested that the repair of the looping lift system be prioritized over other repairs. Please replace the fuse as soon as possible. It is a huge hassle for everyone to get around without it. So that's something we already did. And now we can use those lifts.
Pick up
Oh,
the
you're in the cool place.
Sure. If you
Doesn't
say
matter.
it's cool.
That's the secret. Every place is the cool place in this
Oh,
game.
it's so real.
Everything is so cool.
Everything is awesome.
Everything
Wait.
is awesome.
Fuck. Everything is cool.
Have you
and you're
been enjoying the
proud.
game, by the way, Zoe? I haven't been able to make it to the streams.
I've never
regrettably.
played a worse game. I hate everything now.
The worst game ever made, to be honest.
I fucking hate this game. That's why I've played it 3 times.
Well, oh wait, can I put it back? Also, no?
Oh, it's too late now.
Well,
For
I guess we'll
taking-
never know what's through this door. Just kidding.
It's already over. Oh, wait a minute.
No, I've been very much enjoying it. The aesthetic is really, really good. I am insane. Oh, fuck!
The floor people, they're here.
What's
Wow,
that?
that's the, hello.
Oh,
That is the first time those guys have ever scared me. They've been the unscariest thing so far.
Zoe,
Yeah?
you must wake the fair maiden with a kiss. It didn't work. I think she might actually be dead.
No, it's okay. Just use that repair spray you just picked up on her.
Oh, that's right.
Other side.
It does kind of look like Sleeping Beauty in like fucking glass bed thing.
A little bit. Oh, hello. Oh, yay, you're late. But no, I've been enjoying it. I've been... Spook a bunch of ice... eyes on it.
Bunch of eyes.
I've been very confused by the story, like very, very confused. Like, what's real, what's not? Is this all... Is this all like a hallucination by someone who's like in actual modern day in a coma or some shit? Is our wife real? Are we actually looking for ourselves? Blah 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 blah, etc. You know?
Yeah,
So yeah,
I
I'm
think
very
that's
excited.
normal.
Yeah, and there's a male, and I want to kill him.
As is the common reaction.
You know what I miss?
Yeah.
I miss the Plate of Eternity. Where'd that guy go?
Where did that guy go? I put it in the box, I think.
The plate
that
of
was the
eternity
thing-
is my best friend because I can eat off of it and it'll never get empty.
Oh, so true.
That's so real. Ow! Ooh! Oh! Ow! Hold on.
Dude, when I was playing this game, I saw a tweet from somebody that like it was literally just like I've made a what is it? What's the word I'm thinking of? Observation. That's the word. I made an observation, and they posted a picture of Adler next to Ken from the Barbie movie.
Who's Adler?
Yeah.
He's the male.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's funny. maybe I'll think it's more funny when I'm done. No, but what I was gonna say is like when I started the game, it was like you had the intro sequence where everything seemed pretty normal, and then all that hallucinatory shit happens in that regular little office room, like modern day office room that is there for some fucking reason. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? But okay, all right, that was maybe just like some sort of a dream or whatever. And now we are over here and we're doing our things, and things are more normal now, relatively speaking, you know. And then I find the Plate of Eternity. in a beautiful little box that already kind of feels out of place, but okay, you know. And then you find the Plate of Eternity, and it mindscape teleports you to a weather station somewhere, and then you get an item from that weather station, and then you have it when you come back. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? You know, like, I mean, it's extremely Silent Hill, obviously, but it's just like, what's real and what's not? Oh fuck, I can't believe it. You know, it's very good. I like it.
And then they do that again when you're collecting the keys for that door. No, this is stuff you did already.
Okay.
When you're collecting the elemental keys before you fight the Mina boss.
Oh yeah, there's like a little moment where you get like a first person section in a school somewhere. Yeah, that also like what
when you no, like when you remember the VCR tape?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where did we go again after that?
Well, so you looked at the VCR tape and you were on a bus, and then you picked up a key, and then you had the key.
Were we on a bus?
Yeah, we were.
Oh
on
yeah.
a bus.
Oh yeah. We were on like a train. A train. Yeah.
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 God, what the fuck's up with this game?
It's so cool.
It's very
Been
cool.
2 weeks.
It's just, that's a funny thing to me. It's like, before I started playing, all I knew is that people love to make fluffy shipping art, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, there's no way that's real, because I know this is like a survival horror game. But now I'm like, it might as well be, you know, like, because I feel like the game itself just isn't real. None of this matters. None of this is real, you know? This is all just sort of like grappling with inner mental problems and shit.
You know what is real?
The friendship.
You're a real one, Zoe. You're real as
thanks.
fuck.
I'm so goddamn real. That's so true.
Anyway,
Thank
I
you.
would like to put down a bet. I'm willing to put down $10 on this. That you never actually kiss a girl in this game.
No,
Okay.
well, you know what? I'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll also take you up on that.
Okay, well, if Piku knows, if Piku's gonna take me up
Yeah,
on
okay,
that.
Piku doesn't get to.
No, hang
But
on, I
it's too
feel
late.
like
But it's too late. No, you and me, you already.
Okay,
I'm
fine.
gonna get
I
10
feel like
bucks.
I've lost this bet already.
I'm gonna get 10 bucks. Woo!
Yeah.
84-21. I don't know. I don't know how much longer I can go on. I do not want to live anymore as what I have become. The red eye beyond the gate showed me, no, touched me, poisoned me. It feels like my mind has been contaminated, defiled by another person's memory. Oh, okay. I'm no longer fully myself anymore. 10 $10, you know, that's gonna go towards commission, you know? But I've not fully become someone else either. I'm stuck here between her and me, with half-formed dreams and recollections penetrating my brain and taunting my every action. Who is she? Who is that white-haired girl? Yo, the one from the vision at the start?
Yo.
Whoa. Why
Visions
do I long...
of women?
Visions of women? Why do I long to see her again? Why would she curse me like this? Why? Okay, so someone else has the same person in their mind.
She has poisoned me by turning me gay.
Oh no.
I'm homosexual. White girl mentioned.
In this fascist regime, homosexuality might as well be a poison.
No, but that's very interesting. If, like, it seems that Falco is talking about the same person that we saw at the start. So, hold on a second.
So.
Oh, right, I lost the photo. Fucking asshole
Alright,
stole
yeah.
it. I forgot. God damn
This
it.
seems to be quite a fancy hostel room. Like there's one corridor that leads straight to this room where there's apparently this hostel bed.
And there's like these flags and stuff. Is this the
This
president?
must be someone of some import.
Right? Oh, hello. Can I take that?
Oh.
A heavy box fashioned to look like an owl. Oh.
Oh,
There are
nice.
small holes at the top looking like a speaker or a microphone. Ah, it's a Bluetooth speaker. I see.
Ah.
Curse to think about pretty girls. That's no curse. That's just life.
Okay, can we take it? Can we have it?
Gimme.
Give me a Bluetooth speaker, bitch. She's
play-
dead. She does not need it
I
anymore.
wanna play Caramel Dancer. Maybe on this side.
You go back to that note and it says those fucking girls who've been playing Caramel Dancing with that owl-shaped Bluetooth speaker for 2 weeks straight.
Like it says that now.
Yeah. Wait, is there a door over beside this
No,
room?
that just means that I'm behind the thing. At least I think
I see.
so.
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, okay.
So you don't lose track of where you are.
So do I need you to wake up somehow? Why can't I just take it?
Pull the plug on her. She's holding it too tightly.
What if I could?
Zoe, genuine question. Do you prefer not receiving tips?
Only when I ask for him.
Okay.
Thank
And zips my mouth shut.
Yay! So is your mouth shut? Yay! This is so awesome.
Silenced forever.
Oh, dude, it's Falk. Hey, the one we were just read about.
Hi, Falk.
Maybe this will help. Führungskommando, Leitenheit Replika. Falk, Operational Command Control Unit, Replica Falcon. Type, Generation 6, High-Tech Bioresonance Command Unit. Frame, biomechanical with polyethylene shell and bullet-resistant armor plating. Height, 250 centimeters. Hello.
Height hits her head on every ceiling.
Yep. Not on the ceiling, but on doorways. Classified information! Commander eyes only. The Protector...
You can't look at this. Look away.
Sorry.
You're not a commander, Zoe. Sorry.
I meant the game.
Oh.
The Protector Führungskommando's commander, the head of each Aeon Facilities Protector Force, is a powerful prototype bioresonant Felk unit. An authority that may never be questioned, a Felk unit serves not just as a commander to the Protectors, but as a nearly godlike being. Jesus Christ.
Huh.
That's a fucking... That's a jump. Ow, fuck.
Yeah, if she's such a godlike being, how come she's comatose on the bed, huh?
Yeah, seriously.
If God's so great, why is he dead?
If God's so great, why is he a man? Never mind, look at her. A perception that is underlined by her tall build and resemblance to our nation's leaders, the Great Revolutionary and her daughter. It is also aided by her powerful prototype bioresonance module, which not only allows her to bend the will of weaker minds and fathom their intentions and emotions, but also grants her the ability to manipulate objects from a distance. Wow.
Wow, we should kill this thing.
I feel like we might have to fight her at some point, since they are like describing combat abilities that like seem kind of unnecessary to explain if they're not going to be relevant during gameplay. Mm-hmm. Just saying.
I think it would be right to kill this thing, I'm gonna be honest. I don't like it. I don't subscribe
wait.
to any gods.
What if they're hot? Hey, look, it's the one we fought. Wow, another document on a boss we fought in the room next to a document that looks like it might be about a boss we'll fight. Replica overview. Minenarbeit, Nukleartechnik, Hochsicherheitsreplika. Mina. Mining, nuclear tech, high security replica Mina. Type, Generation 3 Industrial Specialist. Frame, biomechanical with high security and reinforced armor plated servo shell. Height 260 centimeters. When it comes to dangerous cargo, heavy machinery, and hazardous environments, no other model rivals the MNHR units with their high security power, armor bodies. Even in lethal radiation, under crushing pressure, and in zero-G, they keep their calm demeanor and show exemplary teamwork. Despite their hulking bodies, underneath their face shields a standard Generation 3 cranial construction can be found, making maintenance and social interfacing as easy as with any other replica model. So it's really just the face. That's quite funny.
Yeah.
Please note that the neural pattern is not suited for combat use. For combat applications, the SAPR variant should be used, which employs a combat-capable persona in the same frame. For more information, see Schwere Anti-Panzer-Replika Schnapper. Schnipper?
Hey, what do you think we should call this robot? You got it, boss.
Yeah, good name.
Good name, boss.
Good name, Bosch.
You got it, boss.
You
I don't know
body
why they're
boss.
mobsters.
Why is there an inspect thing above this? It's never the case.
I don't know. I
Probably
guess
because you can inspect it.
But I can inspect so much, though.
I'm guessing no one thought to inspect this, and they're like, right, we've got to make sure people know they can inspect this one. They walked in, saw the table, was like, oh, there's nothing here, and left.
Oh, hey, Beyond, that's the one that they want to blow the fuck up. Home to the
Hell
Imperial Palace. Oh, floating above poisonous clouds. Let's see.
Kaboom.
Kaboom. Rotfront. Rot means like, I guess like shit. Like,
Rot means
as-
like mold and stuff.
Yeah, but in Dutch, for example, you can use it.
Oh.
You can use if you think something sucks, you know, like when like this is a shit meal. This is rotmaal, rotvoedsel.
Rot futsal.
Yeah, voedsel, like food.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can't roll my R's like you can. I can't roll my R's at all. Yeah, I can't do that. I don't have the vocal capability to roll R's, so... That was a purr.
You could learn.
Can I?
Maybe.
She's taken up.
Schnapper das kleine Krokodil, yeah. Schnee, schna, schnappi, 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 schnapp. It's a thing. Don't worry about it.
He's broken.
It's just a Dutch and German thing, and probably also
You wouldn't understand.
what's that place called? Belgium. Sorry to any Belgians in chat.
Shout out to the Belgians.
Shout out to the Belgians. Clima forming, that's fun. So what's a star? An ordinary showing a rotating view. Yeah, I know. Show me a star. Heimat, home of the new nation's government. I heard the view of the gas giant's rings in the sky is beautiful there. Wow. An ordinary showing. Yes!
I'm guessing the
Yes!
star
Okay,
might
I think
be
I have
where
to,
you are.
Yeah, maybe. Ow. I just noticed that I can't click on the actual gas giant, which is only on the moon.
I see.
Lang S23 Sierpinski is here. Okay.
Well, I guess there's nothing interesting in the gas giant because it's a gas giant.
So, what kind of gas is it?
The
Space gas.
oxygen. It's all
Yo,
oxygen. It's just
oxygen?
a big,
That's
it's a big ball of oxygen.
How does that work? Where did it come from?
Space.
Oh,
You wouldn't understand.
I guess
You don't
not.
understand space.
No, that's true. Luxembourg also had Schnappi. Nice. To be fair, any Belgians in chat have to deal with being a Belgian. Or don't be rude. They have so much to deal with already. Try to roll the R with both the back and front of your mouth at the same time. Is that what I do? I don't know. It's just.
Oh.
Okay, stop. Stop.
It wasn't that bad, was it?
It sounded like you were gonna throw up.
Okay, fine.
When I close my eyes, I can hear the sound of the sea. Interesting thing to say. Kitesh. The Red Desert. The Imperial fleet can only hold it for so long before it will be liberated. Oh, that sounds
What?
positive.
This sounds like some fascist bullshit.
I mean, we've sort of come to the conclusion that both sides of this conflict seem pretty fascist.
That's true. Everyone is fascist in this game. Especially the hot women.
No.
I'm sorry, so it just seems to be the case.
Fuck.
Especially her.
Okay, hold on a second. 3 of those.
I mean, I want you to be honest with me. So, have we come across a single person in this game that hasn't seemed to be a fascist or b a zombie? A zombie that used to be a fascist.
There's that one woman with the knife. She just can't say what she is or not.
That's true.
She came here. She's dressed different than other people.
That's true. She seems to be notably less fascist.
She looks exactly like the person on the photograph that we had, but for some reason we're not addressing that.
Because she hasn't introduced herself as the person in the photograph, so our robot brain has just gone, oh, okay, she can't be it then.
That makes sense.
Take the shot. Okay.
Aw, dang it.
Take the shot. Perfect.
Nope. Target the other one. Target! 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 Oh, god damn it! Fuck. That's my one complaint with the game. Is the targeting system is absolute fucking dog shit.
Yeah, the aiming is not great sometimes.
I'm not a fan.
Come
Well.
on, more dudes.
Actually, they're doodads. Aw, dang it.
I'm sorry, I've used dude in a gender neutral word.
I know.
It's,
I'm kidding.
actually, it's not gender neutral, the gender is enemy.
Can you fuck off?
The gender is thing that must be shot. Oh, fuck.
Well. Tried to
Goodbye.
push her down again, could not do that.
Goodbye.
Whoa, look at that door! So
No,
much.
my
Well, hello. Sparkle.
No, my friend, you killed my friend.
A flashlight module!
Hell yeah. Oh, that was the thing lighting up the room.
Oh, that's kind of fun, actually. But how do we turn it on? Probably by using this.
Another door has a cool eagle
Wait.
on it, so that's pretty cool.
So I can't also have the stun rocks equipped? That's annoying.
Yeah.
Ugh, I can't believe this game would make me
I hate
force me to
limitations.
make choices.
But you can at least use the stun prods from the menu.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Oh, it's
That
Atma.
fucker, that asshole, I hate him forever. I hope he explode.
Me too.
Isa is somehow the most normal person we've met in the game so far, and she's running around with a knife. That's normal, who isn't?
You read this and it just says, our first attempt to make an asshole robot. This robot's just a complete dickhead. We
Or it
hate
just says
him.
like, hey, we're so sorry for this one. We don't really
Sorry.
know what went wrong.
It's because we made him into a dude. What a mistake.
Being the his AI is based upon the all the men we could find, and as turns out, the only men who would register to have a robot made in their image are a bunch of fucking assholes.
A bunch of assholes.
Administration and data processing, logistics replica Eagle, type generation 5, high command specialist, frame biomechanical with polyethylene shell and titanium skeleton, height not tall, bitch.
Short!
Shorter than me in real life, awesome.
Get fucked.
Get fucked. An integral part of every protector Führungskommando is the administrator unit. A single Adler unit can manage. Oh, Adler like Adler, like in, yeah, all right, that makes sense. Can manage and oversee administrative tasks for an entire facility, freeing other operational command units to focus on the direct control of protector units. The Adler is designed to work as a direct counterpart to the Falk unit, serving as her adjutant by taking care of necessary paperwork and calculations. How much you want to bet that he's the one who put her in stasis?
I bet 100% that you should kill him.
Oh, well, we know that.
To be fair, I think you should kill them both, but still.
Why should we kill the lady?
Well, the big one is sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't like that she can control minds and is seen as a godlike figure.
It's kind of weird.
I don't care how hot she is, I'm not down for the fascism.
Fair point, fair point. Akai, thank you very much for the egg and for the sippy. And for the 13 plus check as well. But being the only robot man on a space colony full of robot lesbians, that's the motherfucker. I do. It is very funny to me. Yeah.
Stretching stretcher.
So true. Screaming reaction, thank you for your egg.
Stretching stretches in mind.
It is very funny to me that we have one male in here and he's just immediately like he's in a leadership position and a complete asshole. Like, yeah, that checks out. The idea that he's an asshole because he can't get any because everybody here is a lesbian is very funny to me.
I like to imagine he's only like this after asking out every single robot on the station. Like he just goes up to every single one. He's just like, "Hey,
Oh fuck.
you wanna go for drinks?" And they're just like, "Oh, sorry, I'm a lesbian." He's like, "God damn it, not again!"
Not again!
Crosses off the
immediately
800th robot on the list.
immediately like drops to the floor like, no.
Anybody in the facility that likes men!
He looks at his list of robots and it's just all crossed out all the way down. That was the last one, and that's when he cracked.
And then he was like, if I can't have any of them, then none of them can have each other either.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hi.
Has he tried transitioning?
It would fix him.
Rushfront.
Hope for the future.
Hope for the future.
Wow.
Could have
That's
picked
nice.
a better name.
Yeah.
Home for the future. Shitfront.
This is a bad place.
Bad place.
This place sucks.
Suck place.
That's why I think that's what they should call the planet. Just this place sucks.
This place sucks. Don't come here.
Please leave. We recommend you leave. Huh, the star map has like a little red thing suggesting that there's something we can still do with it, but I didn't see any kind of anything we could have done with it. Looks box.
You land on a planet and you're just like, "Hey, you, what's this place called? Please leave." Just go.
But we just got here. No, that's what it's called. Oh,
But
why
also,
is it,
please leave.
why is it called that? Because we would like you to leave, please.
We need you to leave, actually.
It would be
We
so
will
awesome.
kill you if you don't leave.
Okay, I have to get to the rolling shutter gate. I think, because that's what we have a thing for. Command. Oh, fuck. Commander, we're heading towards this planet sucks. Should we visit somewhere else?
No.
No, I've won it.
No, I don't think we will.
Yay. Oh, a safe room. That's
Oh, nice.
nice, but it's not the progress I was expecting. Ah, never mind. Here we
Now
go.
that's the progress we're expecting.
There we fucking
Anyways,
go.
I was lying.
I don't feel safe.
Yo.
Oh, it's you. Is that you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I guess not.
Ulster unit.
Right, yeah. Why didn't you feel safe, Ray and Beast? We're in a safe place now. It's a safe
I
room.
feel safe.
I feel safe.
There's a piano in the room, and that's scary.
I am.
If you're not
Oh, is it the
careful,
piano
I'll
room?
just
Oh,
try and
shit.
crush you.
I only just now realized that there's piano playing. Mhm.
I do actually have an edited version of that clip that just goes, "I feel safe."
Nice. Jullie, einfache universele Lichtreplika. Simple universal light replica owl. Oh, I see. Type, generation for low cost general purpose frame, biomechanical with height, same height as the asshole and shorter than me.
Sure.
Euler units are the backbone of the Houston nation's workforce. These elegant multi-purpose worker units are suited for all kinds of domestic tasks like cleaning, cooking, and simple medical and office work. Yulis are highly social and get along well with each other. Oh, no, my head. Oh, I've been hurt. Oh.
I can tell you've been hurt. You've got 2 bumps on your head.
Those are my awesome Homestuck horns, silly. My awesome candy corn horns.
Uh-huh.
I wonder how Hussey ever thought about that. Anyway. While unfit for combat, their lightweight frame makes them a prime choice for distant facilities where supplies are limited. Okay. A grand piano. I wish I knew how to play it.
Can you tell how grand it is? It's under a sheet.
It's even with the sheet, you can tell that it's very, very grand. So imagine how grand it would be without the sheet. There's something, okay. I know that this game is fully 3D and stuff, but a lot of it just sort of, the art style and stuff, it just feels like pre-rendered backgrounds. And so when I see stuff like the crosshair, okay, well, it's actually not in the bookcase, is that interesting? But what's the edible? Give it a try. Oh no! Don't be nibbling. It doesn't work here. No! It doesn't work here, but on other walls, like where the crosshair like follows the walls exactly.
Yeah.
That stuff looks very, very interesting and weird. But the way that the light like completely affects the piano here, it doesn't. That's breaking something in my mind. Like, no, wait, that's supposed to be pre-rendered. How are you doing that?
It's breaking the rules.
It's breaking the rules, dude. That rules. It was 2D for much of its development. Really fun.
There's actually, I was told there is a mod that makes the game entirely first person.
Oh, sick.
Oh, cool, dude.
I might play it like that. That sounds fun.
I'd like to see it like that for sure. Oh.
Yeah, I've been meaning to try it out, but I haven't looked into it yet.
I know that there's a first-person mod for Little Nightmares, which is very funny.
Oh, that sounds horrifying.
What? That sounds awful.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
How's that old pal, the Pleb Eternity doing?
Wait,
Yay!
Is it doing good?
What?
Is the Pleb Eternity doing good?
Yeah, I think so. It's just
I'm
chilling.
glad. I'm glad. I hope it's comfy. It's my favorite character.
I can't believe that a first person and a third person mod. I can't believe that this game already got the Resident Evil remake treatment. Alright, so now we've got the owl thing, so...
The owl key.
The owl key. Which
So
we
now
are
can
going
go
to
to the owl
take
room.
over there, I think.
You can go to the owl room, which is just a room full of owls.
That is not what an
they
owl
don't-
sounds like.
Yeah, no,
It's
that I
not at all.
realized.
Excuse me?
You know what? Actually, no, I'm right. You're wrong. La 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 la. I'm not listening.
Alright, well.
Americans are trying to imagine a bird that isn't an eagle.
True.
Wow, fuck! Eagles don't even. Ah, no, I'm being hurt and stuff. Eagles don't even sound like that, like the thing that eagles are made to sound like in movies and things, which is funny to me.
I know.
Yeah.
What about Kestrel? Kestrel's a pretty good bird.
Don't know what that is exactly. I mean, I know the word. I just don't.
It's a cool bird.
Oh man, that's so cool.
There's so many cool birds in the world, just like plants and falafel.
That's true. Have you read this yet? Probably.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Okay.
You can check that out last stream.
Oh, great. Hello.
Oh, this is a cool little room. Look at their lights.
Yeah, they're cute.
Oh, this is where they were playing all the hip hop music.
No, dude, this is where they're streaming. Look at their gamer lights.
Oh, it's true.
Wait, Zoe, look at the mirror. There's real mirror.
Yeah, I know. It's cool.
Rumor.
That's all mirror sends at the corner of the room.
It's
Hi.
gotta be tall. Because
Yeah.
everyone here is tall.
Yeah. Isn't the stereotypical eagle noise actually red-tailed hawk? Maybe. I don't know what bird it is exactly. I just know that the original eagle actually sounds like ah! Ah! It's like a very pathetic little noise. Oiland leader. Owl songs. Whoa!
It's E-time, everyone.
It's E-time.
Let me get an E in chat. Let me get some E's in chat, please. It's in the game.
It's in the game.
I love that emote is called Gauntlet 2 emote.
Yeah.
Emote.
Got your
Got your
mother
mother.
in a world. Wow.
She's not sure.
Gang, can you believe it? It's time to take a break so I can do my ester gel. Wow.
Yippee.
Gosh golly. Oh
Yahoo.
no, not again. Oh, my poor skull.
Don't hurt her skull, Chad. She needs that to have
Think.
a skull.
To have, yeah.
You don't need to think with your skull. You think with your brain.
But the brain is inside the skull.
Yeah. Where else do you keep your brain?
Yes.
In your wallet.
That doesn't fit.
Silly.
It might fit. Maybe if I like dry. You know how you can put like a flower between like pages of a book? I'll do that. That'll work, I think. Anyway,
Scrapbooking my brain.
if you were to unravel a brain, how much surface do you think you could cover? I once read that if you take all of one person's intestines and you were to make them into like one long thread, it could wrap around the earth, which seems insane to me.
Try it at home, chat.
Try it at home.
Like one person's?
One person.
That doesn't sound likely, I'm gonna be honest.
Definitely not fucking true.
I don't think that's true. Anyway,
But try it at home.
but try it at home anyway. I'm
Try
sure
it
it'll
at
go
home.
really good. We will now take a 20 or so minute break. Maybe that's blood veins? Maybe. Thought it was,
Oh, that was a tennis court.
What is a tennis court if not the world?
You cannot make a tennis court stretch the length of the world.
You can do it, I believe in you. Anyway, 20 or so minutes break while I do my ester gel. We'll listen to some nice music during this time. If you guys have any medicine that you have to take, please remember to do so. Also remember to stay hydrated, get some snackies, stretch your leggies, and we'll be back with more Signalis after the break. Okay, see y'all soon.
See you soon.
And also to my
Bye.
co-host, you will be muted during this, so you can talk amongst yourself forever.
Okay, forever.
Yeah. Bye!
Oh, bye.
I'm ashamed of how I acted when I thought I was in love. I can only chalk it up to being young and unencumbered. I
about his mother and all that she'd been through. What could I do? You got it wrong, but I love you. You got it rough, but I love you. We get along and I love you. You know, I love you. When I learned I had a sister, I pretended to hate her. I seen it on TV, I knew exactly what to do. When I found it out that she had a very young daughter, what could I do? You're kinda sad, but I love you. You're kinda rough, but I love you. We get along and I love you. You know, I love you. We got a bloodline passing through our sideline. We got a bloodline, man, I got a front line. I love you, I tell you that I love you. I need you, I love you, I really, really love you. I love you, I tell you that I love you. I need you, I love you, I really, really love you. I love you, I tell you that I love you. I need you, I love you, I really, really love you. I love you, I tell you that I love you. I need you, I love you, I really, really love you. You're kinda sad, but I love you. You're kinda rough, but I love you. Maybe you're broke, but I love you. I know it's stupid, but I love you. You got a bad sense of humor, a little rough around the edges. You're kinda soft in the middle. You love the boring instrumentals. I never see you, but I love you. We get along and I love you. You are my blood, so I love you. You know, 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 I love you. Thought I'd seen the last of you, falling again. I'm a roof and I need sign. 2 feet under, I'm done. Thought it was the sky, thought the cracked plaster was night. Chips and paint reflected light upon you. Thought my water weight was fine, blended in with ice. I'm heavy. Out in the woods in the pouring rain. Our telephones, well, they never ring. Our telephones, well, they never ring. Is this the worst place you could be? Stuck beneath me, buried deep. Hope this wasn't what you dreamt. Elbows up and trying to breathe. Thought you were the moon, lying sideways like you do. Eyes and craters, small and blue, shining brightly, looking simple and serene. Talking in your sleep, saying goodnight. Out in the woods in the pouring rain. Our telephones, well, they never ring. Our telephones, well, they never ring.
telephones, well, they never ring. I must have fallen on you. I must have fallen on you. I must have fallen on you. I must have fallen on you.
It's not enough just to live a life. Simple measures to survive. It's like living should be easy, right? There's always something heavy on my heart, heavy on my mind, falling on me all the time. There's always something. There's always something. Small as you see, small as you see. Give it up just to feel alright. Simple pleasures to suffice. Never do consider if it's right. It's fleeting. Somewhere in my heart, somewhere in my mind, falling on me all the time. There's always something. There's always something like small as you see. Small as you see. Mermaid sits on a sidewalk, rocking the harbor, watching the children play every day. Sun or rain, old man kneels to the earth to pray for the rain and the stars and the cars at the heart. A dark, a windy Vancouver, a black day in December. She sees the worst is yet to come. A big wave on the horizon. The first wind blowing in left Stanley's soldiers felled and broken. An old man kneels to the earth in his mother's garden, where his own father was laid. And every day, sun or rain, a mermaid sits on
December. A black day in December. The mermaid sits on a tide wash rock in the harbor where the blue heron would lay. And every day, sun or rain, old friends fall to the earth and decay. With the city by the sea, sweet brine in the breeze, and the mountains watching over her Vancouver. A black day in December. 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 My grandfather, he picks wildflowers at the top of the hill upon the mountainside, and he knows them all by their color, shape, and their size. Up over the ridge, through the valleys, picking flowers by the riverside. Just to see her smile, see her smile. True love, true love.
Calm lady hourglass, take me by the hand. I'll shower you with gifts if you'll just make the hard times pass. Tall and blue and crystalline, I'll be yours if you'll be mine. This ancient battle against time, bound to make a mark. We gotta get some weight on that tiny waist. Yeah, open up that little space. Chocolate covered lollipops and all that stuff. Break the spirits of the sand in every hourglass of the land. Sands rushing to your feet just like your head's on fire. 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 7 years inside a month. I think I plan to work too much. Yesterday I woke up and my life was gone. My hair is gray, my skin is tough, wrinkled and my voice is rough. Tell me, lady hourglass, what went wrong? Oh, you gave me lollipops and chocolate covered lemon drops. Wasted through the sandy drop. Time flew by. Every single grain of sand that passes through my crystal hands. A child is born, a boy's a man. This you have to understand. Play the cards that you were dealt. No matter if you're feeling well. Best will come around you. Best will come, best will come. Best will come around you. Even if your head's on fire. 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 Your head's on
But I should pick one.
Whoa, oh my god, my face.
I
Hello.
I was teaching Jody how to play Balatro while you were gone.
Oh, good.
I have learned basically nothing. I don't know how to play the Ultra.
Okay, good. Then you and I are on the same page. Cool. I have never bothered to look at that thing. It's like, wow, everybody's enjoying solitaire? I don't care.
I've never even seen it. Like, I only pay attention to games like first-person shooters, so...
That's true.
hello,
I get
everyone.
cheesed again. Anyway, hi gang.
The gang's all here.
No, what the fuck? This shit again? Come on.
What
the
hell?
Yeah, you weren't here the first time. Pico, but the trees.
She keeps eating the cheese.
Nom nom nom. Yum. Yay.
Can I put it on one of my horns? Kinda. I guess that'll do. Sure. Speech. Do a little bump on the socials.
They're
Do-do-do.
socials.
The socials. Okay. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi. I hope you had a good break. And Ryan Beast, thank you very much for the egg. Wow, during my break, I read a little bit of Yuri, and well, you know, I did my Astrogel.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Yeah,
Cool.
thanks.
Those are good things to do.
Thanks. Video game now. Okay, so pick up broken music cassette. What?
You're no longer sharing the screen on Discord.
Discord, you dumb fuck. I hate you.
For some reason, it stops every single time. Like,
It's just when the source isn't active for a while.
yeah.
Does it? Urine estrogel, a wonderful combination. Does it make the estrogel more efficient? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it
That's what they don't
does.
tell you.
That's what they don't tell you, but it's true.
That's what they don't tell you in Harvard Business College.
I mean, that's not untrue. I guess they don't tell you that in Harvard Business College. That checks out.
I'll be right back. One second.
Okay, bye. Shaken to my core to learn that Zoe Conley Queen reads Yuri. Every day I grow more powerful by reading more and more Yuri. I am the ultimate lesbian. I'm the ultimate pining lesbian. Cause all I ever do is read it. The secrets the government don't want you to know. Yuri accelerates. What a good phrase. Anyway, break up broken music cassette? Yeah, okay. There's a knife in the cassette player, which is not ideal. Portable audio tape player with a knife embedded in the speaker. So whoever that person was did manage to break it.
Yeah, I was just looking the note.
Yeah, they fulfilled their dream. The reflection. Wait, what did that say? Look at myself for too long makes me feel like I'm staring at a stranger. Ooh. Look at my reflection. Somehow it feels very unfamiliar.
I have never seen that dialogue before. That's crazy.
That probably doesn't mean anything. Ha 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 ha. Saturday Signalis. It's Signalis Saturday. Let's go.
It's Signaturday.
It's
Hey, gang.
Hey,
Is that
gang.
anything?
Guess who has food?
Oh, what kind of food do you have? Is it a succulent Chinese meal?
Shut up, Zoe.
Is it though?
Yes. I hate you. You're the worst. You're my worst friend.
I don't think you mean that.
Yeah, well, maybe. There's a lot of things I don't mean.
So you don't like me?
This place is great!
Thanks,
I
Amy.
like you. You're my best friend, though.
Well, now I don't know what to believe.
For fuck's sake.
Anyway, let's go to the repair bay because it's dark in there, so we can go in there now.
I do like saying you're my worst friend because it implies not that I don't like you, it's just, you know, you could be a better guy.
Yeah. It's like you're
Well,
still a very dear friend, but just, or like still a friend, so still better than people you don't consider a friend.
You're down
But-
there for rankings.
Ow.
Actually, never mind. That's probably worse than just saying
Ow.
I don't like you. Think about it.
Is it?
I think so, because it implies you're ranking your friends, which I think makes you a worse person.
That's a good point.
Whoa, what the fuck?
It's okay.
Everything's fine.
She just like zoomed past you.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things happen, you know?
It's true.
Robot weird.
It's large, I'll wait. Can they shoot these and blow up?
We can only hope. I do
gonna
like
lo-
watching things
oh.
blow up.
Thing to the
Oh,
floor.
floor people. You should have shot the floor people.
Fleeple! There's Fleeple!
Is that what we called them? Or is that a thing you made up?
I made it up just now. Secure storage box for pistol-sized firearms, locked with a small padlock. Oops. Can I shoot the padlock?
I mean, it seems like you would be able to.
Combine with gun. Nope. Use. Nope. Okay, gotta get the gun. The key from somewhere else. I'll take some adhesive tape. Take some bullets. For guns that I don't have with me. 8421C! 6 stars. Okay, so these are scholars. I don't see people that we know per se. So, whatever.
I think they're all stars.
So true. A transparent propylene-based pressure-sensitive tape that can be used for joining, sealing, attaching, and mending. I wonder... No. I was gonna say, I wonder if we can attach the flashlight to the gun, but that's not really smart either. Also don't really know what that would accomplish, per se. Oh wait, maybe combine this with this? Yay!
Yeah!
Oh, hell yeah.
I fixed it. Now we just have to find a functional music player.
Zoe Gaming Gauntlet Queen.
So real.
I didn't know those were your middle names.
Gauntlet Queen is my middle name.
Oh.
Also my last name.
So you got McQueen,
Gauntlet Queen.
Yes.
Zoe Revolver Ocelot Gauntlet Queen?
So, I imagine that you might get something for shooting these targets, but I don't have a lot of ammo. So I don't really want to risk it.
Yeah, you get something. The high score.
Oh, you're right.
How can you be a real game if you don't get the highest score in shooting the targets?
You're right. I don't know. It's a mystery. Oh, hey gang. Bye.
Zoe,
Yeah?
I'm gonna say something bold and perhaps innovative.
Okay.
I don't like the floor people.
You don't like the Fleeple?
I don't like the people, no.
Why not?
Like, I just don't like entering a room and thinking, it's good in here, and then it's not good in here. I prefer it to always be bad, always be good. Why did they stab that?
Because
Is it because
they
they're
thought
playing
the music...
caramel dancing?
Yeah.
They were like, I hate those music. I'm gonna kill it. And then they did.
You think robots would be smarter?
I mean, it's kind of inspirational. She set a goal for herself and then she did it.
Yeah, honestly, this is inspiring me to take a knife to my sister's iPhone whenever she plays Taylor Swift.
So real. Also, she has an iPhone, so she should do that anyway.
Better watch out, Taylor Swift might take her private jet already to your house.
Smash into it.
Yeah.
Of course, at that point, she's not in it anymore. She gets
Yeah.
someone else to do that.
She flies it to your house, and then at the moment, in fact, she boards her second private jet to return.
Which is inside of the first one. And it comes out like it's fucking Thunderbirds.
She gets into a smaller private jet, which she usually uses to go to the bathroom.
Does anybody know what Thunderbirds is?
Yeah, I know what Thunderbirds is. It's a British classic.
Bigger, do you know what Thunderbirds is?
No!
Okay. I was just curious. Oh dang. Okay. It's just a door. Oh, bye.
I never considered that Thunderbirds as a puppet show, but I guess you're right.
Yeah, it's a mixture between puppetry and stop motion.
Yeah.
An island key. Hello. What could you be to? Oh, I know. To the island painting,
island.
of
You
course.
can go to the island now.
Yeah. My dad watched Thunderbirds as a kid. My dad watched Thunderbirds and then I watched Thunderbirds because my dad watched it and we had a bunch of toys from it and stuff. We had like a big, like the island and the palm trees would go to the side and then like the platform would lower and it would be the airplane would go.
I had the exact same toy.
You know?
That was a sick toy.
It was so fucking cool, dude. It was really cool.
Classic
It was
toy.
a signed British at birth. They had a movie in the mid 2000s. Oh yeah, they had like a live action movie, right? Like Thunderbirds: The New Generation or some stupid shit. Not as good.
I don't know. I fell off of Thunderbirds around age 3, so I don't know.
I never truly fell off of it. I could always appreciate it.
I never truly fell onto it because this is my first time hearing about it.
That's fair. It was cool.
I guess I shouldn't say fell off it. I guess I should say the VHS that we had started being boring to me because it was the same 3 episodes.
That's fair. Yeah, true. I just liked looking at it. I think it was like Coco Melon for me. Colibri in the management office. One of the Colibris had holed herself up in the management office on the 7th floor. I've seen her and her quote-unquote illusions, okay, sitting inside the room crying. Which one is the real one? Oh, wait, we've seen that.
Have we?
Yeah, we had to use our radio to like distort the illusion so we could see the real one. I think it's because of the painting in there. Whenever I was close to her, I felt like my mind was being assaulted by the image of that island. The sensation was strong enough to make me hurl. Is there a way to neutralize the transmission? Maybe some sort of feedback loop of the frequency of our control signal? So now I want to say someone else is experiencing strange hallucinations and such, right? However, none of this is real, so that doesn't count.
They say that, but I feel like that sounded like less of, oh, I'm experiencing hallucinations, and more like that is a function of what the robot does.
I don't know about that.
You don't think?
No. I mean,
I never
like,
think.
what kind of function makes your mind be assaulted by a painting?
Okay, but we know that the tall one can control minds, so...
Yeah, I guess, but that still
So
feels more. That feels still more plausible in a sci-fi setting than a haunted painting.
Okay, but I don't think the painting's haunted. I think maybe this one robot just has a fixation on the painting and is using whatever low-level telepathic abilities they have to project it into this person's mind. And then we've established that these robots can be telepathic, so...
I guess we'll see. Anyway, I gotta get to a safe room all the way over there. All the way over there. Okay.
Me when I have to traverse 3 rooms, it's so far away.
Oh God!
Oh god, I understand
when
why
I
Taylor
have-
Swift uses her project.
You're right. I'll never criticize her again.
I'm sorry, I spoke of your joke.
I know it's a joke. It's fine. Put that away, and this one. Keep the key for now, because I know exactly where to put that. How much shotgun shells do we got now? 8, okay. We don't even have the revolver. We're getting so much ammo for that thing, or well, not a lot per se, but just like there have been quite a number of instances where we got ammo for it. Then now I'm like, are we supposed to have it yet already?
I think it would be very funny if the game just gives you ammo for a weapon you never get. Like it's just scattered around because other characters use it, but you don't ever get.
Like I think that's what I said last time. Is like it could be like a Voices of the Void situation where
It's just
Where
a
you-
box ammo you can never use.
Yeah. And all these fucking glitches around the corpses. Well, not just the corpses, just like the freakies. It's just like, why?
The freaky eekies.
The freaky deekies. Is it because of our robot senses just try to block out the scary somehow? Or is it because none of this is real? You know?
I think it's
Oh, wait.
'cause you're in the Matrix.
So none of this is real. I was right all along.
No, the Matrix is real.
What do you mean? The Matrix is... The Matrix is a simulation. Oh, hey, the gun! The revolver, I got it.
Oh, wait, where did you get it? Oh, was it in that box?
Yeah, it was
It was in the box, yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they give you the ammo for that gun like hella early.
Yeah.
Because, do you remember that puzzle again with the elemental keys? There was that X-ray room, and
Yeah.
there's a revolver underneath the X-ray, and I'm like, chat, and am I supposed to break this open somehow?
Yeah,
Yeah, see,
like...
I said the same thing, and so he
Yeah.
doubted me.
Jody was so fixated on that we would have to get in there, but like as you know, as a game designer myself, it was very clear to me that was definitely not going to happen. Like it would break its own rules so much if we were able to do something else in that room like that. So I knew that wasn't going to happen.
As an intellectual, I knew that was going to happen.
Ow. Well, yeah, you were also like that. We have to get that key card from there, but I was like, no, because what's the point of being able to see the code on the key card if we don't have to put it on the fresh key card that we have? That would
but
make
I
no
thought it was-
sense.
I thought it was just showing you that was a keycard, because if you couldn't X-ray it, then it wouldn't be clear if it was a keycard or not.
Well, no, I think you could have done it without showing the code. If that's really what they wanted, then they could have just put it in there in a different position. You know?
Yes, you're right.
Anyway, it was just kind of funny. We were bickering about it, and then I turned out to be right, and it was awesome. Yay! Anyway,
Yay, go Zoe!
yay, go me!
I don't like you anymore.
Sorry.
You're never going at $10.
No, I am. Because I'm gonna win.
No, you're not. But these girls are never going to kiss. There's going to be zero kissing.
We'll find out about that.
We'll see. I have to be right about something. The law of averages just say it says so.
Fair enough. Middle names only exist as a signal that you are really in trouble, so I think names like first name plus series should have an internal file name as the middle name. Like the Crash Bandicoot lab assistant being obj_motherfucker. Well, what would my file name be then, Chad? The Matrix is real. It's just real through programs and electric impulses instead of like physical space. Yeah, so a simulation then. Like
Okay, but-
that's what I said, right?
I mean, the only thing you know is real is what your senses sense. So if the Matrix is like a perfect recreation of reality, then it might as well be real. It is real to you.
Well, yeah.
Are you real?
Okay.
No, you can't be sure this is real, like what's happening right now. So like,
Oh. Oh.
oh,
Okay. No. Of course. Whatever you perceive as reality is your reality, right? But if we're talking about what's real and what's not, I mean like the physical space. So what we perceive. So from our perspective, right? Our
Yeah.
current perspective. What the physical space, what we call the physical space, is real from our perspective, right?
yeah.
Yes. So, and from our perspective, also, we can, with our knowledge of the Matrix universe, we can say that the Matrix is not real, because the Matrix is a simulation. We know this. If we were to live inside the Matrix and be unaware, then yes, we would say that the Matrix, that the universe we live in, which is the Matrix, but we don't know that, is real. However, with our enlightened minds, we know that the Matrix is not real because it's a simulation. Right? Does that make sense?
It
No.
makes sense. It makes sense. I just disagree.
Okay, thanks. Burger good. Do you agree, Chad? Burger is good. Ow. Burger is good. I had one today.
Oh, nice.
I'm jealous.
I don't think burgers are real.
I would also say like, real and whether or not something is real and whether or not something matters are two different things to me. Like even if the Matrix, you know, even if you find out like, oh, my life is inside of a simulation, doesn't mean that your life doesn't matter. It's just not physical. So that's what did I just pick up? A key card.
Pick up
Workshop
something.
key. Okay. I thought something scary was gonna happen, but I guess not.
Why would anything scary?
Because she
Just a
talked about
painting.
her mind being assaulted by a painting.
I mean, it's a painting.
And
so
also,
you might can't be assaulted
this
with a painting.
this I saw that painting. I saw this location in like a hallucination at some point early in the game. So I really thought something was gonna happen.
It's just a painting. Nothing can harm. No painting can harm you. It's just normal.
Well, the robot isn't there anymore, so she's not there to blast your mind with images of the painting.
No, but like way earlier, like at the beginning of the game, I saw it.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, oh, something scary's gonna happen.
Ooh, painting.
Ooh, painting. Bye.
I
Okay,
think
living in.
rather than-
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm okay living in a simulation if I convince someone to export me.
Where?
Yeah, wait. If you say well, like to where? And doesn't that mean that you're not okay with living in the simulation because you want to get out? You want to be exported? Also, I live in a simulation. I am digital.
What's a simulator?
Well, me, I guess, in part. The castle that I live in. That's about it. Some other people.
A bunch of idiot robots.
I put those here.
Okay, but you put them there, but it's still simulating them. You told her what to simulate, but it's
Fair
still
point.
simulating.
Fair point. Okay, let's see. So we are over here. We want to go up the
And boy,
elevator
are those
one.
robots stupid.
Yeah. It's kind of by design, but it's also kind of an accident.
It's also kind of funny.
It's pretty funny. Oh, hey. Oh, it doesn't pause.
Oh, hey, I can use this to repair the damage I just took from picking up the...
Yeah. How convenient. Ow.
Oh.
Ah, a note. Love to read. Yo.
Girls,
Everybody looks the same.
it's Star and Scourge.
So real, storage.
No issues.
Don't be mean. We're literally just little guys. I know. I made you that way. I'm not being mean. You guys are
No
silly.
issues, part 2. They don't kiss enough. Why are they kissing? Make them kiss more.
We have to infuse them with more gay thoughts. If you were from where I was from, then you'd be from where I was from. That's very wise. That is true. I would have never thought about that.
We just got an order from head office. They want more, 50% more kissing.
I love to acknowledge. What did I miss so far? Shit's weird. I'm dying almost a lot. One time all the way. I recently got a new gun. Replica known issues part 2. Do we have a part 1? I don't know. Classified information. Commander eyes only. I've decided that's me. Previous experience with these replica models has given us insight into into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural net patterns used for these units. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. Star. Despite their normally laid-back demeanor, stars have a strong internal hierarchy, which is important to take into consideration when promoting units to officers. Oops. Not promoting a respected unit or promoting a unit low in status can lead to friction within dorms. Stars will occasionally develop in-group rules involving physical punishments. Well, it is recommended to allow some officers to own military weapons as fetish objects to stabilize their persona.
This is toxic, Yuri.
This is toxic Yuri for sure. Storage units initially have a short temper. Training them in patience early after deployment is key, as their neural pattern is less stable than other models. Failing to do so may yield an extremely volatile personality prone to cruelty and violence. A common strategy is pairing them closely with an older star unit. Storch's persona stabilizes by showering or bathing. Books on history or mythology work well as fetish objects. The fact that fetish is capitalized is funny to me. Like,
Yeah, I think it doesn't mean fetish as in sexual, but fetish
No.
as in worshipping objects.
yeah, something like that, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Something I'm noticing though, is just the way that all these documents, or a lot of these documents, like, I mean, I guess that's just how they're built. They're literally replicas. They're all like the same. They're built the same. You know, they start the same. But the way that they're talked about as if they're just like some animal to be controlled or something.
I mean, they are the robots.
I know, but you know, themes.
It's fine. They're robots. They don't think or feel.
Shut
or
the
know.
fuck up.
This is.
I'm gonna be a robot. Piku's right here. Can't be saying that.
Robots are just tools, you know.
It's fucked up.
I'm so sorry. I was done.
Anyway, I don't know. It's just don't talk about people like that, you know.
I'm not.
No, not you. I mean the documents.
Okay.
Something which is believed to possess, contain, or cause spiritual or magical powers, an amulet or talisman. Alternatively, an irrational or abnormal preoccupation or fixation on some object or activity, an obsession. Yeah, I think it's that one.
Anyway, yo, tape deck.
Yo, an audio tape deck unit wired up to the broadcasting unit.
Yo, let's plug some tunes in this place.
I forgot to bring my thing. Damn it.
Oh.
I'll have to go
okay.
get it.
We ain't pumping tunes, gang. I'm sorry.
No, not just yet. I should have checked if there were enemies here. Dang it, I have to go all the way to another floor.
Welcome to Hard Rock FM. Rock, rock, and more rock. This ain't your daddy's station.
And what do they play?
Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's always Imagine Dragons.
Supposedly it is, yes.
Imagine Dragons are radioactive.
Not Marina radioactive?
No, it's always Imagine Dragons radioactive.
Not a love Marina love.
I don't know who Marina is.
Marina from used to be called Marina and the Diamonds?
No.
Oh.
Nothing doing, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Arena
shit.
of the Diamonds.
Well, she used to be called that, and the Diamonds were like the fans. But then
yeah.
everybody started thinking that she was talking about like her band, and she doesn't have that. So she's like, well, just be Marina then, I guess.
She'll always be a diamond to me.
She was never the Diamond, but thanks. I mean, yeah,
Okay, she'll always
whatever.
be terrible to me.
But her music's very good.
What you want from me? I'm doing my best.
Marina,
Maria?
Marina.
Is that Marina?
No.
But where are her diamonds?
You mean the Chaos Emeralds?
The Chaos Diamonds? The
Chaos Diamonds?
The Harmonious Diamonds?
The Harmonious Diamonds. Harmonious Diamonds sounds very nice, actually.
It does.
Harmonious Diamonds. Wow.
Wow. See, if I got a team together to destroy the Chaos Emeralds, I'd call them the Harmonious Diamonds.
Dude, in the comics you do have the Diamond Cutters. What if they were the Emerald Cutters instead?
What diamonds are they cutting?
They're not... It's not literally, it's just what they're called. They're like a little... What were they? Like a mercenary gang or something? I think. I'm not quite sure what they were doing before the events of the story anymore. They got disbanded over, bad events.
Over bad events, fair enough.
Strife.
What were-
Internal conflict.
What were the things in Sonic Rush? The rectangular emerald. Were they emeralds? The soul.
Oh, fuck. I'm
things or
smart,
something?
amazing. The soul emeralds? I think they might have just been called the soul emeralds.
It's always fucking emeralds.
It always is fucking emeralds, but not always, actually.
Name one time it hasn't been emeralds.
The warp topaz.
Okay. You win this
Yeah.
round.
Yeah, I don't know. The Phantom Ruby also.
That's true.
Wait, what were they in Sonic CD?
It's always a fucking gemstone.
Weren't they just... Oh yeah, were they something else?
They were something else. They weren't Chaos Emeralds, but I forgot what they were.
I also forgot what they were. Chad will know.
I think we need to get rid of
Time stones.
Time
gemstones.
stones, not an emerald.
Not a fucking... Well, we don't know. They're a type of
They're
stone.
stones.
That's all we know.
Yeah, so
Emeralds are a gem.
emeralds are also a stone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Emeralds are gems.
We
Gems
need to
are
get rid of
stones.
stones. They've been nothing but problems. You've got Sonic, iced movies,
Oh,
Steven Universe. Nothing but trouble.
I think you're on something. Yeah,
Pianos.
Okay,
Tejanos,
you're
that's
on
real.
something.
You're on something. Hey, let's be on some music together
Oh, yeah.
and not experience weird hallucinations or anything.
I'm waking up.
Click. Put. Goal. Put in. Do it.
I mean, it's in there.
Goal.
These are not tunes.
Play.
This is not belting out the tunes.
Am I hearing anything?
Is this the
I'm
tune?
hearing something. I'm hearing like a ticking.
Oh god, it was a bomb the whole time.
Oh fuck. But be quiet for a second.
Did you turn the radio on?
I mean, it seems on, and I pressed the play button. So. Oh, I see.
What?
I have to turn on this thing.
Oh, I see.
That makes sense.
142.
Yes. Oh. Now my guess is I have to go to the hospital bed and she'll be like, God fucking shut up! And then she'll wake up and kill me.
This is a fucking bop.
It's pretty
I'm
nice.
lying, it's not. I don't
Pretty
know.
nice.
It's fine, but I don't
Wait, you
get
don't like
why that
classical
guy was
music?
so upset at it. Like, I don't know how
Girl.
you could get upset by this music.
I mean, if it's playing nothing but this for days,
I mean, it's just classical music. Like, I feel like I could have this in the background for days and not even notice.
Well.
I'm
Oh, there was a
waking
pillar in the way.
I think you
Look
should,
effect.
like,
What?
you should start clearing out these
Why not?
hallways, I'm gonna be honest.
Am I in the wrong place? Did I skip it? Yo, I skipped it. That's awesome.
well, you're going up on the highest floor.
Where am I? What's happening?
Where am I? Who are you?
I don't understand.
What is this?
It's this way?
Who are you?
Oh, it's this way. Hello.
They hate the music. They want it to stop.
They hate me. Hello. You gonna wake up now? Hold on a second, let me
You go up to her and she's just like, yo, you belting out the tunes?
Yo, let's go! And she starts Fortnite dancing. And like way too fast, like not on beat at all. Oh, of course, because it's owl music.
Oh.
It activates the thing for some reason. Because none of this is actually real, so it doesn't have to make sense. Thanks for the hummingbird key. Are you gonna wake up now and give me a jump scare? No? Bye.
I'm not waking up.
There's no...
Radioactive.
Nor dust.
Alright, where were we? Well, there's a library, but we need a library key for that, so let's try that one. Switch back to the pistol. So we don't waste any ammo. Oh, you guys woke up again. That's not great.
It's the
Why
music. They were like, oh.
Oh, dude, we love that music.
Oh shit, that shit's banging.
Yo,
Oh, you're belting out
then
the
they start
tunes.
Fortnite dancing and stuff.
I love when they belt on the tunes.
Yeah, right? Dude, do you know who's banging out the tunes today? It's Neil.
It's Neil!
Neil's banging out the tunes today. Does everybody know?
The one man permitted to be celebrated on this
Happy
day.
birthday, Neil.
Happy birthday, Neil. Also, it's still more logical than Resident Evil puzzles. I mean, kind of, because sometimes Resident Evil puzzles are just so fucking buck wild, like, why is this built this way? But it's, like, real, you know? Like, it's like, there's, when I'm doing this, or there's something's weird in Silent Hill, it's like, well, yeah, but none of this is real. You know, but Resident Evil's real, so why the fuck did they build a bunch of weird-ass puzzles into the police station?
Is real.
Well, I mean, to a degree.
There is actually a canonical explanation for why there's a bunch of whack-ass puzzles
I know,
in the
it's
police
just
station.
dumb.
Sure, of course it is. Of course
Like-
it's dumb. It's Resident
like-
Evil.
Yeah, they made a canonical explanation for it after the fact, you know? It's like, oh yeah, and then I guess we'll write an explanation, but we just wanted to have these puzzles. You know?
Resident Evil is it's true. It's a video game. So
It's real to me, I'm also a video game. Zoe blasting Tchaikovsky without headphones. Aw, you guys woke up. Why'd you wake up? I'll be real, if I was building the police station IRL, I'd put all sorts of bullshit puzzles into it. Yeah, I'd make those cops' lives so fucking annoying.
If I was building a police station that IRL, I'd put puzzles in them, but they'd be the type of puzzles from Saw, where if you fail, you get your fucking arms cut off.
Oh, good. Wait, how did I get here? Thank you very much for the egg.
Good afternoon, Detective Smith. If you want to get out these handcuffs, you have to get the key, which is inside of your partner's stomach. Here's a knife. You have 12 seconds, or this trap will explode.
Doing to a cop is extra fun, considering. Replica known issues. Part 1. Classified information. Commander eyes only. Previous experience with these replica models has given us insight into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural patterns used for these units. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. They did a bad job. Yulis tend to form large groups and like to sing and dance. That's nice, as the original neural pattern for this unit was a ballet dancer. Aww. Persona degradation can be easily prevented in this unit by making sure they have access to music, through tape players or musical instruments. Always place at least one mirror in Yuli dorms, as they have a strong urge to check their own appearance at regular intervals. Yulis' persona stabilizes by keeping a tidy appearance and through regular social interactions. Yulis will often organize in groups of roughly 10 units and give each other themed nicknames. That's adorable. I like the Yulis. Arar, even though they may seem like quiet simpletons, rude, do not underestimate Araz. While they may not show it, they judge those who are rude or unkind harshly and will quietly share this judgment with their entire cater. Araz get along best with Yulis, who tend to be patient and friendly, and have a talent for reading Araz expressionless faces. In many facilities, Araz will construct service tunnels accessible only to them. Oh yeah, these are the floor people, okay. The Fleeple. Often under floors and in walls. Unstable units may retreat into these tunnels. It is not recommended to attempt to retrieve them. That's funny.
I
Just let him sit.
there's just one that's like, oh yeah, these ones like music and ballet dancing, and these ones keep retreating to hidden tunnels that we don't know about, and we cannot get them back. Then you flip the page, it's gonna be like, oh yeah, this one needs to play with the organs of people in order to keep stable.
This one needs to bathe in the blood of her enemies.
We should not have used that serial killer as the template.
All right personas can be best stabilized by allowing them to access to plants to take care of, ideally colorful flowers or trees. That's nice. They seem like nice people. I wish they weren't,
Insane.
in this place. In this institute.
Get out of this place. You don't want to be here. Leave.
No. Go home.
Go home. Be with your family.
Yeah. That's so funny to me. Imagine just being at work and constructing a secret passage. Yeah, just in your spare time.
You ripping up a floorboard to make a secret den.
The Aras yearn for their minds. Colibre's note. Keep an eye on Adler. Aw, he's an asshole. He's hiding something from us. There was nothing in his diary, but when I probed his mind, there were memories of an LSTR unit working at Sierpinski. LSTR, do we know? Is that
That's
us?
Alistair.
Oh, that's us. Oh shit. There's no record of that model of replica ever being deployed here. An order for a single unit for some survey work in a mine was briefly considered, but no new orders were made due to the commander's sickness. Interesting. Oh, look, Colibri.
Hello, Colby.
Hello. Okay, replica overview, Colibri. Colibri means hummingbird also. I've said that before, but I'm saying it again.
This unit sucks.
This
We
unit.
hate it.
We feel sorry for this unit.
Because it's so bad.
It's even. Oops. There are girls in the walls. Rip the walls open, get them!
May I ask a favor?
Free them.
Free them. What is it?
Despite my earlier claim, can you turn the music off while reading this? Because this is actually getting to me a little bit.
See?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. This
Yeah.
is annoying.
After I finish reading this.
Okay.
That's so funny to me. Imagine just being at. Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's stopped by itself, but no. Imagine just being at work and constructing a secret passage is really funny.
You read that.
It's even. Yeah, I did, sorry. It's even funnier when you realize it's literally saying you killed one and now they are all angry at you.
Every single one is mad at you now.
I don't know. I think it's because they're zombies.
That too.
Mm.
If only they weren't zombies, then it'd be fine.
Yeah. Then this would be such a nice time. Colibri, Commando Control Unit, Bioresonance Technology Replica, Hummingbird. Type Generation 6 High-Tech Bioresonance Specialist. Frame Biomechanical with polyethylene shell and bullet-resistant armor plating. Height, short.
Short.
Short. A marvel of modern technology, the Colibri is one of the most capable bioresonance units ever produced. It's the, not one of, it's just the most capable bioresonance unit ever produced.
Everyone loves it. It's great.
Everyone loves them so much. Every protector, Führungskommandos, Falke unit is aided by a cadre of Colibri units, adjutants, which can amplify her bioresonance signals, as well as produce their own. Despite their diminutive builds, Colibris are one of the most effective protector units. Able to directly influence the minds of replicas and gestalts, extract information non-verbally, and communicate among themselves instantly in the full bandwidth of the senses, the Colibris bioresonance is the closest recreation of a true hive mind. Ooh.
Huh. Don't like them, kill it.
How do I heard that there was a... Oh no, wait, maybe I do have to turn it on here, but after that I can... I thought there was a way to, like, turn on and off the radio from here as well, but... Maybe not.
I think you can just change the frequency.
fuck!
Whoa, scary!
91.
What was it?
91.
91.
91? Just 91?
Yeah,
What is
91,
just
yeah.
91?
Just
09.
91.
Okay.
Before you went into this room, I was about to say, finally peace and quiet.
Well, I did it. You guys sure it's 91?
Yeah.
So it said it probably changed. If you leave the room and go back in, it'll probably give you a different one.
What the hell?
Fucked up.
Hello. Okay.
248.
248.
You gotta stop changing. Strip. Video.
What did they say?
229,
What?
229, 229, 219.
219.
290. Fuck. Well,
These things are hard to fight.
you guys wanna fuck off yet?
Strip.
It's 178. 177. Okay.
What's-
Well, come on. Fuck
Fine,
off.
shoot.
Shoot the one all the other ones are pointing at.
147.
It's like
Oh yeah, I think it's
highlighting
the middle
one.
one. Yeah. I think it's the middle one. Oh no.
What? I don't know. 115.
115.
Yeah, 115. Yeah.
It's all coming
See,
from
there's
like
a
the
square
middle
over one
one.
of them.
Is there?
It is the one directly in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Strip.
Oh, well, that seems to do something. Huh. Okay, that's
Yay.
weird because that's different than the first time I fought them. So it's
They-
confusing.
Okay, I noticed that a lot when I was playing this. They're very inconsistent with how you're supposed to deal with them. Sometimes they explode the second you get to the corrected frequency. Sometimes they don't.
That is kind of annoying.
I didn't notice when I was playing though that it does highlight. It does like have a square, and then all of the other ones like point to that one, so that one has to be the real one.
Okay.
But you fuck
Because whenever it
strip.
just didn't instantly kill, I would just shoot a random one and hope it was the right one.
Tiny strips spout backwards as Brits.
Oh no, they knew you were here.
Why's everyone so mean to you? They should leave.
I do think that would be nice if they just left. They are being kind of dickish and such. Attack me, ow! No, I don't actually. No, ow!
It was a bit.
It was just a bit.
I was just playing.
Some people always take the bit
fucking
too
around.
far.
Seriously. God, I'm like not okay now. Wait, no. Oh, wait. Okay, use. I see what went wrong. Okay, so let's go up one. Ah, fuck. Fuck. Okay, yes. Okay, here we go. Because we need to make some inventory space, we can get the lockbox key. And then get another plate of eternity, or whatever the fuck.
Yo,
Do you wanna-
plate of eternity.
Do you want a tip for those? I don't know what those are.
It was
The-
the hallucination robots.
I'm good. We figured it out.
See, I don't know why you think.
Oh wait,
like,
shit! I have an empty slot now because I use it as healing items to get here, make space. Fuck.
Uh-huh. I don't know why you think like the painting hallucination isn't real when those things are clearly actually putting out hallucinations.
No, I guess it's just the way that it was written. It seemed to suggest that the painting was also making the colibri go crazy.
No, I think it's just a robot. I think the robot's just obsessed with the painting. Because it's a really nice painting. Take the shot.
That is crazy that she didn't see you. She was looking directly at
Yeah,
you when you entered.
it was wild. It was wild.
You should have taken the shot.
No, I'm not gonna waste ammo.
She was giving you a chance to run.
You gotta understand, Jody, is that ammunition is very limited in this game.
Shaking my head. Always
Okay.
take the shot.
Have fun dying to the boss when you run out of ammo. Now here's the
You
bigger
can't
problem.
you can't hesitate in a combat situation though.
I can do what I want. Ow. For Jody, ammunition is never limited. Okay, well, for Esther it is. Or whatever her name is.
Ammunition's never limited.
Do I have the library key yet? Nope.
Hesitation like this is why Ronald Reagan lived a full life.
It's different when you only have to kill one president. Okay, so I have to go up twice. Yes. Or...
I'll hesitate as much as I want, Mom. I'm an adult now, I can shoot whoever I want.
Ow, my face. Someone took the shot on Teddy Roosevelt and he brushed it off. Well, you should have shot him twice.
I like how the ROOS in Roosevelt's triggered.
Yeah, that was being thrown at me. That was good.
Teddy Roosevelt. I still can't pronounce Rose in the way you do.
Rose.
Yes, I can't.
I mean, the way you just did it, that's fine. It's good enough. Come at me. Hey.
Stop screaming at me, it's rude.
It's quite rude.
They should be ashamed of themselves in the way they're acting.
You know,
You know, it's funny that all robots only have melee weapons. How come they're not allowed to have guns? You
Because
have
they're
a gun.
zombies.
because they're zombies, they don't know how to do them. Ow.
They don't know how to do them.
I don't know how to do that stuff. I think it might also just be that, like, the non-zombified ones were like, oh, nah, wait, can you give me your gun back? Because I think I want that now to shoot you with if you try anything. And they were like, okay. Yeah, okay, that seems fair. Ah, the library key. I
It's
still
always
have, like,
key cards.
I know, this is just like one big, like, get the key
Yeah, this
section
is
of the game for some reason.
This is one big trading quest, except the thing you're trading is keys for more keys.
Yeah. Some being like, could I please have God? Melee no good. And it's like, no, zombie, you don't know how to aim anymore. Because you're a zombie now. That doesn't work. Okay, so we got an eagle key. Where was the door for that again?
I know that's like survival horror, but I was kind of hoping that this game would like keep up the pace of like the Plate of Eternity shit. Just like there's been a while since we've seen anything truly
Yes, that is true. Like in the previous section of the game, we were finding all kinds of different items with which to solve puzzles, and here we had that like handle, the crank thing is what we had, and
odd. 20 keys.
yeah, I think just keys. Well, the
Yeah.
music tape, and that's it. Like just those
Yeah.
two items. Other than that, it's just been keys.
But nothing truly odd. Like
Yeah.
nothing out of the ordinary.
It would be nice to have some more interesting puzzle elements again. I'm sure we'll
Like,
get them.
Yeah, like on this floor, there's not been anything like I know the X-ray machine, maybe, you know, like it's like there's no true set piece puzzle to this area. It is just you found this key, go to this previously locked door. Oh, you found this key, go to this previously locked door.
Shit.
Now this key to this previously locked door.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's not the best part of the game.
No.
The cauliflower heads that physically project images aren't odd. Well, we've seen those before,
Yeah.
so that's not a new thing. So yeah, no.
No, those are also where the Plate of Eternity.
Oh no, wait. I
was.
guess they were new on this floor. Fair enough. Yeah, true.
Were they?
Yeah. Because that's like where the painting was. Where you had to put the key in.
Okay.
Another key.
I guess so, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, sure, that's odd, but I've sort of mean like items and stuff. Like, honestly, like as it is, like in our storage unit, the Plate to Eternity stands out like a sore thumb. Like, that is the only slightly weird item we've got.
And I think that might also be the point, that, you know, it's supposed to stand out so much. But even aside from that, like what you're saying, like with the X-ray and stuff, like there were just more interesting puzzles before that. Now it
Yeah.
really is just like get the key for 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 the key. You should put more stuff like the incinerator. Yeah, the incinerator puzzle, the water, the thing with the water. You know.
What I'm really hoping is they didn't front load all that stuff, and now the rest of the game is just key grabbing.
I'm sure it's not. I don't think the game would be as popular if it was just only the start of the game that was interesting.
Maybe. I don't know. Do you think a game can survive a Yuri fan out alone?
Yeah, I do actually.
Exactly. So
Oh, damn,
let's
you're
not
right.
jump to any conclusions.
Hey man, if it just gets really, really Yuri, then I'll also be happy, you know?
I like it when they make use of the radio frequencies, like they did with the owl, the cassette tape.
Yeah. No, that's one of the more interesting parts of
was
this section, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that? Alright, I have right, okay. Uh-huh. Oh, ow.
See what
I
your
can't
cute
believe I
got you
still
so
got
mad.
hit.
I was about to say you missed, idiot, but then she didn't.
See what
Damn.
your hubris got you.
That was embarrassing. And turn it on also, obviously. Use Neo-key.
Excellent. We can go through the funny door.
Yay! Ha 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 ha.
Oh, it's full of vehicles! Ah!
No! Ah! Here we are in Asshole's room.
Oh.
Welcome to the Asshole room. Date 8421-6. I have been fascinated by a peculiar piece of furniture I discovered in storage. A strange box with a removable dial in the front that was confiscated from a worker some time ago. I was instantly drawn to it, though I'm not sure why. When I put my ear on the mechanism, I can hear it faintly clicking like a clock.
Oh, it's a pipe bomb.
Oh, that makes sense. This is 7 pages then. Date 8421-7. So this is a day, or a month, or exactly a month later. Who knows? Who's to say? I have been without Colibri's help, it has become much harder to coordinate the logistics cater. If there's anything good to say about that woman, it is how she knows how to make others respect her orders, despite her minuscule stature. I went to see her today, but her room is still locked. Right, okay, I think these are days. I had a dream tonight, another memory of my Gestalt life, I believe. I was wearing my uniform. There was a young woman, her hair white.
Her again?
Her again, as snow, and I was conducting some sort of test. I had a deck of cards with astronomical symbols on them, and asked her to guess the planet on the card I was holding. Next day, I was playing with the mechanical lockbox again, of which I am now sure is some kind of astronomical calendar, when I suddenly remembered a conversation I had with another replica when I was inspecting the mining site. However, it was clearly a model I have never seen before, some type of engineer with an orange chest piece. Us? Maybe? Are we orange or are we red? Whatever. In my memory, she was just another member of our staff, but no such replica was ever stationed on Sierpinski. Replica memory is not the most reliable, they say, but never before have I experienced such a strange phenomenon. Oh, this is... the date is A now, not a number. The little enigma of that box could only distract me from the chaos around me for so long. All the box contained was a small notebook, of which all pages turned out to be blank. If this is the same notebook, the same box that we found, then why didn't it contain the Plate of Eternity? It has been miserable since our beloved commander has fallen ill. I long for her stern guidance, that overwhelming authority in which she bathes a room. Now it's B. More sick, making my work ever harder. How are we meant to shoulder this workload with no reinforcements? My only consolation is that as our protector staff decreases, so does the workforce we oversee. While more and more replica end up in the hospital wing, Gestalt workers seem to succumb much too fast for any attempts at treatment. Another diary filled, for no benefit but my own satisfaction. I've not ordered a new one yet, since I spent my saved ration marks on that marvelous-looking fountain pen. Was it worth it? But I guess I'll make use of that notebook. So where's that one then? Is that the one that had all the red eyes scribbled on it, do you think?
I don't think so, because that was a book, not a notebook. Like, the term notebook brings to mind one of those ones that have the ringed top that you flip over, you know?
Right. Well, this one isn't either, and I guess it's
that's the
described as a
diary.
diary. Yeah, but he calls it a notebook, doesn't he?
No, he says another diary filled, I'll make use of that notebook, implying they're two different types.
Right, okay, fair maybe, yeah, fair enough. At the very least, notebook is the thing from that he got from the box. Yo, it's us!
It's you!
Finally!
Oh,
After all this time, it's finally you. Ow.
No problems, shit's fucked. Prone to massive hallucination outbursts.
Too cool, too awesome.
Has killed
Hell
trillions
yeah.
of innocent people.
That too. Just write in a mysterious blank planetary notebook from your dreams. I'm sure it's fine. Replica overview. List Elster. Landvermessings Schrifttechniker Replica. Elster. Land survey / ship technician replica Magpie. I love the word magpie. I don't know. Something about the English word for that. It's just very fun. They're called extras in Dutch also. Which I also like. Type, Generation 5 Cosmo Pioneer Specialist. Frame, biomechanical with carbon fiber reinforced polyethylene shell and titanium skeleton. Height,
Sure.
my height, I think. Or just, maybe, I think just a bit above my height, actually. What's my height? I
I
forgot.
don't know.
A versatile combat engineer unit primarily designed for orbital service. These tough and stoic loners are best suited as specialist sappers and scouts. Their technical knowledge and combat capabilities make these units true survivalists, especially when in their iconic white and blue heavy combat configuration, which sports bullet-resistant armor plating on their chest and forearms. Yo, their forearms? Like
Why
gauntlets?
don't we have that?
Yeah, why not? I assume we'll get that. Since the original neural pattern for this unit was lost with the destruction of the central neural archive on Vineta, new Elster units have been produced based on a decommissioned unit from the Penrose program. I'm sure that's not gonna be relevant.
Oh, that
we
sounds
are.
bad. You don't want to be making clones of a clone. That just deteriorates
yeah.
the pattern.
Right? Well, let's inspect whatever this is.
Oh, that's the box you referred to.
Oh, this is the box. I thought he was talking about it. Okay, alright. This makes more sense.
I mean, the
There's a
butterfly
whole-
box doesn't have a dial on the front. So.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought that. Anyway, there's a hole in the front of the box. It looks like something is missing from the mechanism. Well, we still have a library key.
A bullet. Shoot the
Yes,
box
those
open.
cards. It'll work. Just start smashing it on the ground. It'll be okay.
Wait a minute, that card.
What card?
No, joke.
Shut up.
I was referencing Bioshock Infinite.
Oh.
Remember that card.
Okay.
Video gaming's hardest puzzle.
Hello. Hello.
ruh-roh.
Yo, Dukes.
Uh-oh.
I'm so awesome. Let's go into the library, gang. Let's do some reading. Oh, hello. Wow.
Some
Can I have your
light
body
reading.
armor?
Can
Hi.
I steal your body armor?
A colibri. Who are you?
Fuck off.
You're not one of our staff. Why don't we get like a close-up picture like with the other characters? The others... Oh no, wait, I guess we didn't always get that. Never mind. They've changed. We no
Those
longer
are really
sing in...
cutscenes.
Yeah, fair enough. We no longer sing in unison. I used to be able to see into their minds. We were as one. Together we guided them all. But now I can't understand their thoughts anymore.
They're like
Never-
zombos.
They're like zombos. I've never been so alone before.
Oh.
They're still together and I am here outside and they won't let me in. I cannot stand their song anymore. This is the only place where I don't have to hear them. This is the only place I'm safe. Don't worry, I killed them. It's okay. I can't go on like this. No, I killed them. It's okay. I wish I'd become like the others too. What, dead? Killed by me? I can do that. At least then I wouldn't be alone.
You know what she means.
I know. I'm being funny. I'm making
You
a little
can't be funny.
joke.
She's sad and depressed and upset. She's lost all her friends.
I'm trying to uplift her spirits. You know.
Me
hate
arguing
this.
why I shouldn't be kicked out of the funeral.
Me when I come to the funeral in clown makeup,
Just
your full clown
get this
attire,
party started, gang.
including like the squeaky shoes. I know we're all really sad, but who wants balloon animals?
Yo. This was almost worth losing Uncle Jeff.
No, you can't say that. It's fucked up. No. Ugh.
I'm so...
Anyway, imagine being a Yuri hive mind and then everyone else becomes Zambos. Hey, listen, it's okay. I've seen some like Monster Girl OCs that were zombies. It can still be pretty good. It's okay. You can still be Yuri even when you're zombos.
I've been at polycules like that.
Cool. Maybe not ideal bedside manner. Maybe not. Could maybe be better. Oh, like alignment error is.
Yo, here we go. We found it. The interesting puzzle.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's see. Okay, I see. It's an ice sliding puzzle. Got it. I'm doing it.
I think you should be able to read every single book in this library.
I agree. What do I even... Do I want to get this one? Do I want to get this one?
Well, the books, yeah, I guess the ones that look different seem to be the... This book vending machine.
That probably exists in Japan.
Probably.
Can someone check that? How the fuck do I even... Oh, I see.
Oh, I see. It's like a maze.
Yeah.
You okay?
Oh, we got raided.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Puff Piero, and also Jules, and all the rest of your
It's Puff.
viewers.
Hey,
Hi,
Puff.
hi.
How you doing?
Yeah, Piku's
Hi,
here.
Puff. Yeah, I was lurking. Puff was doing a anniversary stream.
Oh, happy anniversary,
Congrats!
Puff.
Happy anniversary! And hello everyone. My name is Zoe Gonla Queen. Yes, happy 413. Happy Homestick Day. The stream doesn't have anything with Homestick to do with Homestick. It's just for the occasion. I'm in my costume.
Wrong.
That's true. But yes, hello everybody. I'm Zoe Gonla Queen. I'm an artist of various kinds. I make my own models and assets, and I like to do all kinds of different streams. Yay. Porech, thank you very much for following. Thank you. Also, my pronouns are she, her. I am here joined by Pikuselu and Jody. Would you guys like to share your pronouns and such also real quick?
Oh, hi, I'm
I'm
Jody.
Piku. I'm she, they.
I'm Jody. I'm she, her.
Ta-da!
It would have been funny if we just went with it and said both at the same time and nobody knew.
Yeah, I think that would be cool, actually.
Like, yep, that's it.
You
No
got
second
it.
take.
Pico, I have a question.
What?
Do you identify as a girl?
Yes.
Girls' night. Let's go.
Girls' night! Although I think I did
girls'
it.
night.
I.
Oh fuck, it's the fucking book. It's the King in Yellow.
Yo, it's the dial.
Whoa, it's the King in Yellow. You read that at the start of the game and it fucked everything up.
Yeah.
I thought I better check that you identify as a girl for saying girls' night.
Girls' night though. But yeah,
Reads
good
this
Puff.
funny book that makes my flesh melt off.
My favorite. But yeah, Puff, I hope. Ow. I hope you had a very, very good anniversary.
Yeah.
What did you do for the occasion? Stream. But like, what did
He was
you?
doing karaoke and had a new 3D model.
Ooh, hell yeah, dude! Nice.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
Looks great.
What did you say?
I said,
Ready?
Puffy, he just got the new 2D model. That's impressive.
She has some musical songs. Nice, fun. Alright, let's see. Replica, known issues, part Fuller. The Colibri. Previous experience with the replica model has given us insight into irregularities in behavior. Ow. That's friends, blah blah blah. Great care should be given to colibris. Their neural patterns are very unstable, and their bioresonance module makes them very susceptible to influence from others. Like more bioresonant individuals, colibris will often subconsciously create an emotional feedback loop, imitating and then broadcasting the emotions of those around them, acting as a sort of amplifier. I think it's normal. That's
That sounds
normal, I
normal.
think, to kind of like copy, try to match the emotional state of the people you're around. You know,
Yeah,
it's normal.
it's normal. Everything's normal. Cringe, these rebels have empathy.
That doesn't serve you well on the battlefield.
It's true.
While they are trained to recognize and disengage this behavior, already unstable units can sometimes spiral into persona degradation. Due to their bioresonant connection, neural pattern development in colibris varies less than in other models. The constant exchange of memories and emotions between units of a cater acts as a safety net that buffers extreme changes. It's like the squid from Guild Wars 2 a little bit, I see.
I see.
However, once the majority of units in a cater degrade, they will drag remaining units down with them. Because of this, it is important to decommission colibri units instantly when they begin to degrade. For persona stabilization, colibris should have access to a well-stocked library. They're a bunch of fucking nerds, I see.
Fucking, I love. Oh, they should be decommissioned instantly once they start to grow. And just imagine one of them going, oh, "I'm a bit sad today," and there's instantly just a gun to the back of their head.
Just like one of them, like, you know, they're at the cafeteria, one of them has like their tray, and then they accidentally drop them and they go, and then gunshot.
Oh, it's been a rough day.
Not taking any fucking chances.
And then the rest of them get sad because they've just seen another one get shot. And they're like, "Oh fuck,
God damn it.
we're going through these ones quick."
Wait, it's also like for persona stabilization, colibri should have access to the club.
The club, they should be the club.
Replica known issues part 3. Previous experience of this neural pattern is extremely stable. Nice. Little has to be done to keep Minas happy. They get along well with most other models thanks to their sometimes submissive, sometimes motherly personality. Unlike other models, the dairy keeping is not mandatory for persona stabilization. Small stuffed animals may be given as fetish objects, though those resembling cats should be avoided as they might cause resurfacing Gestalt memories. And Adler, our favorite asshole. Adler units work best when left alone. I'd love to. They do not mix well with their own type. They will usually become very emotionally dependent on their commander. Yep, saw that. Adlers are very susceptible to bioresonance suggestion, making them fairly easy to control. However, they become bored very easily and may need new fetish objects at regular intervals for stabilization. Oh, no spoilers. Okay, Park's sports car down the street. Thank you for respecting the rules there, Sheliak. She bioresonate on my module till I screams of the damned.
Excuse me.
Cause they were taken out because they were making that joke.
I see.
They have to be killed and destroyed now.
Screams of the damned.
Screamed of the damned.
Me when I'm damned.
You know I'm Dan.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
No. I'm bad at this.
Zoe,
Yes?
I think I'm going to head out because I have some chores that I need to do. But I had a lovely time hanging out.
Yeah!
And I will keep the stream on so I can watch while I do my chores. Yay!
Yay! Okay, I'm so glad you could come, Pico. Do you want to plug yourself real quick?
Yeah, I'm Piku, and I'm funny on the internet, and I stream. I just started playing this game called Lunacid, and it's really cool and fun.
Oh, I played that.
What's it called? Oh, Lunacid. I want to
Yeah.
play that still.
That was fucking sick. I
It's
streamed
great. You
it.
should.
I really
you
want to
should
play that
definitely
one
check it out.
and Dread Delusion still, both of those.
I don't know that second one, but you should definitely play it.
Oh, I will. I really want to.
Right, I think I shouted at the right person.
I think you did, yes.
That's me, all right.
Yay!
Okay.
Yay!
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye,
have
Piku!
fun.
Bye bye!
Thank you.
Okay, let's open the funny box.
It's still girls' night.
Girls' night! Ah, fuck.
Oh
Okay.
fuck, it's like a puzzle.
Ugh, I hate these.
Me too. We should shoot more people about it.
Let's find Adler. Or whatever his name is.
Maybe he's inside the box.
He's hiding in there. Oh, okay. We have to go to the solar system.
We can do this. If Adler did this, we can do it.
You're right, that shithead. Oh, I gotta weave past all those I should probably just kill them at this point.
You should get your shotgun.
No, I'm saving that for bosses.
Ah, okay. The boss.
I can just run.
It's like a puzzle box. Fuck, that's the worst kind of box.
Fuck! Fuck! Ah!
Okay, I think you might need to
Why
just
am I not?
run.
Oh, right, I don't have the thing equipped. Fuck, well, Man, I'm gonna die now. That was so stupid.
Do you not have any healing items?
Nope.
Oh, life sucks.
Oh, wait, I have this one.
actually. Repair spray, nice.
It's overtime. But like
Life
now I
sucks.
don't have any healing items. And it was so dumb of me to just like try to stand there and waste ammo and stuff. Oh well. Okay, so this is the
Screenshot this.
star. The star, yeah, go ahead and screenshot it. Oh wait, I can do that.
I screenshot it. Can you? Oh yeah.
I'm gonna wait until at the top. She'll never find me if I hide behind a puzzle. And then she's just like chilling in the room, and then she's like, I don't know what to do. And who would walk in but Professor Layton?
What the fuck?
And he'll like, now, my dear, what appears to be the matter? And she goes like, I can't fucking find this jackass. What do I do? And there's like there's a puzzle here, but I don't have time for that. And then he goes like, now, my dear, there's always time for a puzzle. And then he solves it, and out pops Adler, crumpled up, already dead because he was stuffed inside a tiny little box. And so the day was saved.
Thanks to the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh,
You can't use this here. You wouldn't dare try and use this here, would you?
I would not. Wait. Okay, so
Photo. Silly
Ow.
game. That's not how you spell photo.
okay, so what a good photo. Okay,
They hit you to
so
write it all being all keycards and they put in this bang. They patched this in as you were playing just for us.
that's very cool.
I know, right?
Oh, yay!
Yo,
I pick up the administrator's key. I pick up the
you can
note.
get anywhere.
Oh, that's a lot of pages.
Shrine diary.
Ah, the diary. I know it well.
Shrine.
I started yet another new diary. How time flies. The work is dull and monotonous as ever in Sierpinski, but a bright light illuminates my day. Today, I was invited to a meeting by Commander Falk, and she was as magnificent as ever. Wow!
Simp.
Dude, everybody here's a lesbian. Chill out. That's canon. For sure. Another day passes. During my meeting with the commander today, I felt the strangest sensation of familiarity as I sat with her. Sadly, our meeting was interrupted by an unexpected power outage. I've been feeling strangely paranoid these days. This is all still the same day, by the way. Never before have I felt so strongly the sensation of deja vu as I have these past few days. When I checked the pages of my diary today, I noticed that for some inexplicable reason, I seem to have dated my previous entries with today's date. Oh, never mind. What an embarrassing mistake. Unless you're stuck in some sort of time loop. Every day, every day feels a bit like I've lived it before. And even stronger is the sensation that something is somehow just slightly out of place. Why is my diary filled with entries I cannot recall writing? You're still doing it, by the way. You're still making it the same day, even after noticing. Why are they all dated to today? Has the loss of my beloved commander finally gotten to my mind? Am I going insane? I fear what will happen to me if anyone finds out. I am alone in this. If they discover my notes, I will be decommissioned too, or decommissioned. Day one of the time loop. How are we doing, everybody? I mean, it's great. I'm excited to find out how it's gonna go. Feels kind of familiar though.
I have a new theory on what's going on here.
Okay.
I think they have been Y2K'd. And the internal clocks don't go past this day.
That's definitely it. That's really good. Something is wrong. I can feel it. Is this really madness? When I read the pages of my diary, I recall events that never happened. A yesterday that never was, yet it feels as real as the one I actually experienced. This cannot merely be a defect of my mind. It feels as though in this room I peer into another version of reality. How? I do not know. Perhaps I, too, have become sick like the others without realizing. But I will not succumb. A slow accumulation of reproduction errors, a gradual corruption of information, a story misremembered, slowly morphing with each retelling, like genetic material mutating and evolving, like the replica mind copied over and over from an aging template? I do not know, but I will find out. The answers lie below. I can feel it. Someone or something calls me from there, in the mine.
Oh, we're back to Cthulhu again.
Oh, here we go.
Back to Lovecraft.
Back to Lovecraft. Did we ever really leave, though?
I don't know.
That's the thing, isn't it? My internal clock is wrong. Face melts and starts vomiting oxidant fluid. It's only natural. It's like, what's it called? Vertigo or whatever, you know? It's like motion sickness, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, your body is like, it looks like I'm moving, but it doesn't feel like I'm moving. I think I'll throw up about it. I think that's such a funny thing for the body to do. You know? This'll fix it. Wow, there's ideas and themes in here. It's crazy. How long have we been going? 3... okay. Oh, darn. I'm trying to do a thing. Oh, I don't have it equipped. I'm gonna fucking die, gang. Fuck. I'm actually gonna fucking die. Here I go. Oh.
Oh, you duped him.
Somehow, yeah. Okay. I have to go in there. Yeah, I don't have anything to heal with. Well. This'll go well.
I believe it.
Diagnosis tummy problem.
He's being brave about it.
You can always forgive getting pushed down the elevator when he's having such a rough time. I don't know. That's the thing. Like, yeah, okay, he's been having a very rough time, but that doesn't give him any reason. Like that doesn't give him a narrative reason to be the way he is to us. So there's clearly more to it. So either he just, whatever else he experienced turned him into a fucking asshole, or he knows something about us that we don't that would justify treating us this way, you know? One of those things.
Day 8421D. No matter what, no matter what station I set my radio to, it's always fucking Imagine Dragons.
Or he's butthole. He might just be butthole. That's one. Yeah, it's
It
true.
might just be about.
It's a mineshaft elevator. Access elevator controls. If she is still alive, she's probably there. Take the elevator to the mine. Yeah.
No, comrade, to the hours.
I really hope that we can find some healing items right outside the door. Hello, cutscene.
Cutscene.
Limonalitet.
Shit,
Hey,
about
look,
to
it's
get
her.
Liminal.
Hey, girl, how you doing? Ah. I know you're here.
Hey boy, hope you're doing bad.
Hope you're doing that.
Here's a shotgun.
I've done this countless times before. You don't belong here. Get in the hole.
Oh, that's a Lovecraft pit if I've ever seen
Yo.
one.
Oh, yeah!
sick.
Woo!
And he dropped a gun.
Yeah, now we get to have that, or maybe she gets it, and then she can protect herself better also, and then we can fight together, and then
I
we
know,
can
shit's
fight the
getting
people,
weird
find
and
the
fucked
people
up.
we're looking for, and it turns out we're looking for the same person because it's each other.
Yo, Basalt, let's go.
Let's go,
We
beautiful,
all
beautiful
love
basalt. We love that shit. It's so good.
Can we get a shout out for Basalt?
Can we get a fucking shout out for basalt? Basalt?
One of the best rocks, in my opinion.
I like the environmental style. Very cool.
Oh.
And then we'll kiss also. Yes.
I know, what the fuck is wrong with Basalt? Why does it grow like that? It's
Dude,
fucking weird. It's gotta be
'cause-
stopped.
No, it's awesome. I love it. It's
It's like, oh.
crazy. It's insane. I love it.
I'm sure someone in chat knows why Basalt grows like that, and I'm still gonna say it's Satan magic.
What if they just say like, yeah, no, it's Satan magic. You're right. Science
It's
proved
Satan
it.
Magic.
This is a very wide open space. I kind of, in a horror game, wide open spaces are like worse.
It's
You know?
fine. It's a mine.
I mean, I'm not actually like scared. It's just like, it's less predictable. You know. Could come from anywhere. It could be something
Prey
really
animal
big
instinct.
also.
This is your problem, so you're a prey animal.
Fuck no, I'm not.
You've got eyes on the side of your head.
I don't think I do. Damn, there's a whole lot of nothing here, huh?
Oh, Satan magic is Satan's science.
Oh, of course. My Metal Sonic is still there? Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's not gonna leave.
Yeah, I'm not getting rid of it.
It's where he belongs.
Oh, nice. Save room.
Nice.
Oh, flare
Oh,
gun.
flare
Damn it, I
gun.
thought it was a heal.
Hell yeah, fire.
Signal flares, okay.
Can't wait
Oh,
to set
fun.
fire to things and people.
Hell yeah, dude. Alina's diary. Is Alina the person we were looking for?
I
I think
Yeah,
it
I don't
was.
know.
I think it was because we were finding her diary as well, like in bits. It's worse than I thought. Everyone has disappeared. I still haven't found. Yeah, it is. Ow. Metal Sonic's like, where did my friend Piku go? It is kind of just like a Rock Raiders if you think about it. Also, that's true. I still haven't found any. I need to play that that fan remake of it still. Anyway, I still haven't found any trace of Elster. It's as if she had never been here. Something's wrong with the protectors, those that are still around. A guard spotted me earlier sneaking out of the medical wing, and she let out a monstrous scream as she chased after me. When I looked back, I saw her face, and now I can't forget. It looked like she'd been in some horrible accident. Damn. Oh, dude, we got a healing item. We got 2 healing items even.
Oh, hell yeah. Fine, you can heal. You can live.
Yeah. That sound effect is also in Among Us and fucks me up every time.
It is.
A single shotgun for firing the emergency signal flare, cartridges that incinerate targets. Right, and then their bodies are just instantly gone. Anyway, I'll be putting that one away. So we can keep some inventory slots.
Your repair spray as well. Nice.
Hell yeah. Well, that's the boss we fought, I think.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Kicked
It's
his ass.
it's her. Mining nuclear tech high security replica miner. Okay.
The red.
Why do the TV save?
Why do TV save?
Why do TV save? No map data. Cool.
Before you continue on, I feel like I should warn you, because of what happened last time. We have been going for 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
so just
that is
making sure
fair.
you know.
I'd like to see something cool to finish off with.
That's fine. I'm
And I
just
feel
making
like-
sure you realize.
Thank you. I feel like this elevator might be just that.
Mm-hmm.
People will believe in aliens they've never seen before, but won't believe in themselves when they see believe in themselves and see in the mirror every day. That's very wise.
Oh, it's not never. It's a funicular.
It's been a while since we've seen a mirror in this game, so it's not particularly relevant right now, but it is wise.
It's been a while since we've seen a funicular.
It's true. They're so fun. That's why it's in the name.
I know, right?
We just got to see Adler get stabbed in the face and fall down a hole. Yeah, but now that's too long ago.
Half-Life elevator moment.
Let's go. You
It's
ever been
only
on
ever
the?
been in Half-Life.
You ever been on a funicular?
Only in video games?
Oh, I've been on one in real life. It's a good time.
Nice. Where were you going to?
Lower,
The depths.
just a lower point on the mountain.
I was on a mountain, fair enough. That makes more sense.
Oh, hello.
Oh, hello, zombie. I hate the mines.
I wish I wasn't in the fucking mines right now.
I wish I was a zombie somewhere cooler, like the library.
I'm okay.
I don't think you're okay.
No,
You're
I'm okay. Let's see, how much does this do?
You're blue.
Large amount, okay. I'm blue. WD that means I'm fine.
Da-boo-dee-da-boo-da.
Looking in the mirror is dangerous. What if I look in the mirror and then accidentally do all of Silent Hill? That's only if you look in the mirror really, really sad and lean in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, this seems like
Oh,
a
shit.
bad thing you've done.
oh crap.
Oh, fuck, it's a big thing. Quick,
That's a big
can
one.
I get in that thing?
Oh.
Oh.
See, I was wondering if these were gonna become just like, sort of like a regular enemy after a while.
Get in the pit. Is that a ladder?
Oh,
It is
yes.
a ladder. Into the pit.
Yeah, slide down,
Yes.
for sure.
Just do it now.
I did it.
Yay. Hello, Cthulhu.
Cthulhu, you down here, buddy? You wanna talk? You wanna have fun? Defective, okay.
We're looking for the old gods. You around?
Oh. Hell yeah, dude.
Mountains, just as they're known as in the Netherlands, sea level.
This is interesting audio we're hearing right now, huh? I
That's
think
Cthulhu
I think
sounding
we're
shit.
about to get the fun little end of stream showstopper moment pretty soon.
Hell yeah. It's the Cthulhu. Yo, kind of fun. Oh,
Yo,
she
it's
took
the
the
butt.
shotgun, one asshole.
Well, no, she needed it.
I wanted that shotgun.
We have it. Well, I guess I don't have it with me. I didn't bring it.
Well, down the hole.
Down the hole. Let's jump down the hole.
We love the hole.
You can hear the sound of water from above. You think that's water? Looks like there's no other way. Jump into the hole. Yep.
This is normal. This is a smart thing to do.
Dude, we love to descend.
Yo,
Hi. Oh,
she's gone.
that's the person we're looking for.
Game over, you win.
Oh, that's the first person segment.
Yo, it's just like a first-person shooter. Now this I can relate to.
You guys can't see, but it says in the corner.
Is it?
Just the letter A.
Oh yeah, I can see. There you go.
Yeah, you can, but Chad cannot.
Wow, this was all down that hole, huh?
I don't know about that.
This is not just like Half-Life.
Kinda. I guess. It's the beach that makes you scared. Denisophy, hello, thank you very much for following. Welcome.
Well, part of this is just like Half-Life.
Slow poly in first person.
Oh, okay. What is it? What is it over there?
Pages. Collect my pages.
Collect my pages.
In one kind of death, the spirit also dies. While yet the body was in vigor for many years, sometimes it dieth with the body, but raised up again, where the body did, but is raised up again where the body did decay. That's very interesting. Blackout poetry, where the sentence just matches up, just feels like it, you know.
Yeah.
You didn't need to black anything out; it just works. Spooky.
Rock.
And a star fell from the sky, and a mountain fell into the sea and turned to blood, and the moon turned dark.
This is normal.
Yeah, this is fine. It's a nice beach, nice day at the beach, you know?
Nice day.
Fuck yeah. Blood.
Blood. Oh.
Blood, blood, blood. It calls me. In a sea of flesh, we will become one, but I can never go back to being me. Who was it that we read about who, like, was that also Edler who, like, had sort of, like, almost, like, half fused with a woman?
I have no idea.
Oh,
Oh. You died.
yeah, oh well, I guess we're dead. Okay, that was nice. That was a nice little day at the beach.
I hate the pit.
It's okay, let's just leave. Find a loading, or a safe room.
Hopefully there'll be one soon.
That would be nice.
Okay. You scan these things and they're like, these fuckers dead.
They're fucked up. They're not okay.
Yo, red.
Oh, red! I'm gonna grab this thing first.
Yo, blue.
Offerings.
Oh.
And in the darkness the dead shall be offered a light and holy spices, so that they may find a way out of this cursed place.
Normal.
Very normal. I can't wait for all this culty nonsense to make sense.
You know, it makes sense. It's the Cthulhu.
Oh yeah, a small cup filled with sand, but filled with sand for placing offerings stands in front of the ancestral shrine.
Oh, that makes sense.
Ah yes, this is an ancestral shrine. How could anyone not know?
Why do you know this?
Yeah, right? Exactly. Why do we know this? Why is that in our minds?
Oh yeah, the ancestral shrine.
We all have one. Every home has an ancestral shrine, but how is it made?
Let's find out. First you grind the bones of the dead.
First you kill your ancestors. Okay, offer the light and holy spices, so that they may find a way out of this cursed place.
It wants your flashlight.
I think it at least wants the flashlight, yes.
It wants the spices.
Oh. This will trap the sword line up against the wall. The names are eligible, or eligible due to where? Eligible and eligible, they're so close to each other.
Okay.
I have a normal shrine, but my kids are gonna ancestry love it. That's how it works. First you have a shrine, and then becomes an ancestral shrine. So do I use?
Maybe you gotta unequip it. Maybe it doesn't want your flashlight. That seems like the correct answer to me, I guess.
Yeah, because like light, I get it.
Yeah.
I
Unless
want
it
this to
makes
offer
sense.
something.
It makes sense to me that horror game would ask you a flashlight.
Yeah, right? Take it away from you.
So there's like nothing else we can get.
Yeah, we have 2 rooms at our disposal. One of them just has nothing in it. Oh wait, no, 3 rooms, but still.
Hey, can I take like one of your eyes?
Just need some stuff, just real quick.
I need an offering. You guys got offerings?
Wait, is this a door? Oh, this is also a door.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Huh?
Wait, what?
Oh, fuck.
Oh, you're in the Lost Woods.
God damn it.
Dun 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 dun
Dun, dun,
dun
dun, 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 dun,
dun.
dun. Mhm. Oh fuck! It's the Signalis symbol.
It's the signal.
It's the icon of the game, but it's also the Impossible Triangle by M.C. Escher, who was an artist that I used to love a lot as a kid.
You don't anymore.
Well, no, I still do. It's just I was like, I had the autistic child obsession, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I had a lot of books and stuff. I still have those books, but like I used to just look in those books, just sit and look in at books of impossible drawings and stuff.
It seems pretty possible to me. Skill issue. How is it impossible? I'm looking at it.
But I'm looking at it. My favorite part of the game.
Cool.
Alright, I'll try to keep in mind how to get that we have that 3x3
Oh,
code. Can't carry any more of that.
it's giving you a lot of ammo.
Yeah, yes it is.
It's for shooting things.
Like this.
Fucked up.
Come on.
What?
Fuck!
Why have you come to the holy place?
You wanted
Just
to?
not.
Nah, I had to.
Fuck you and your holy place. Die.
I hate your holy place. I've decided. Large wooden
Yo.
doll. Ah, for the offering.
We found it.
guess.
We found the offering. Oh.
Ooh, oh. Another hole. I'm not gonna go down there just yet. Another red page. I'm not gonna try to
Redirect.
translate all that. Warnings. This place here, nothing is valued is here. What is here was dangerous and repulsive. Okay, hold on. What is
Okay,
the...
so
Yeah, what is the exact message again?
I can't remember. These are the nuclear warning signs, aren't they?
Yeah, I'll find
what
it
is
real
here
quick.
was repulsive and dangerous to us.
I'm gonna find it real quick.
Okay.
Nothing of value lies here. If I just do that, I'll probably get it. Okay, here we go. No, where's the full? Oh, fuck.
Okay, I found it.
No, I want to do it.
Okay.
I
Do
know, fine.
you want me to just link it to you?
This place is a message, and part of a system of messages. Pay attention to it. Sending this message was important to us. We considered ourselves to be a powerful culture. This place, to those who don't know, this is a message that is placed in, what is it, like 20 different languages?
Yeah.
At the site where we are burying all of our nuclear waste and such, in hopes that future civilizations will read it and go, cool, let's not
Yes.
dig that stuff up. Because if future civilizations are anything like us, they're gonna need a lot of deterring to stop
Yeah.
them from doing that.
The point is that we don't know that future civilizations know what nuclear
Yes,
waste is. So
exactly.
just saying nuclear waste is not helpful. You need to you basically need to communicate a vibe to them.
Yes. This place is not a place of honor. No highly esteemed deed is commemorated here. Nothing valued is here. What is here is dangerous and repulsive to us. This message is a warning about danger. The danger is in a particular location. It increases toward a center. The center of danger is here, of a particular size and shape, and below us. The danger is still present in your time as it was in ours. The danger is to the body, and it can kill. The form of the danger is an emanation of energy. The danger is unleashed only if you substantially disturb this place physically. This place is best shunned and left uninhabited. That is cool.
It is, yes.
I also hope it works. Or better yet, that it just doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Cringe. This place sucks. Oh, that's different.
Oh, that's new. That's not a nuclear warning sign.
When the danger within is killed, a path will open here, maybe?
Maybe.
Well, not going down there yet.
Remember we were complaining in the last chapter there was nothing but boring keycard hunting?
Yeah.
I feel like they should have. I feel like they did that specifically so that this part would be more impactful.
Maybe. You get so comfortable with just sort of doing the same little simple tasks over and over.
Yeah. You're like, oh, this is a boring keycard. This game's run out of tricks, and then suddenly you fall down the fucking hole.
Wait.
The Lovecraft hole.
Yeah.
And then you're in the cold.
I get a similar vibe from some cave diving signs, which are like, they're out. There's nothing here worth your life. People better than you have died here. I know, I love those too. Well,
Better than you have died here.
yeah, it's strong.
We fully believe that you suck ass.
No matter how cool you think you are, you're going to fucking die here. I fully assumed that this would have to go in here, but I guess we have to find something with that shape. The hexagonal shape, which is not this.
Yeah.
But I have an idea of what to do next.
She
You get used to
knows.
being scamper-filled getting the key. You get used to being scamper-pilled getting the key cards. That's true. So scamper-pilled. Alright, let's see. Maybe not. I thought that these cages were like where we had to click on the things. Well, I'm gonna try anyway.
Have you tried 0451?
I think that would be hard to do.
Why?
Those are numbers, you see.
Okay, but it's a keypad. You can assign the numbers to them.
Fine.
You don't have to try it. It's
No,
definitely
I'll
not
try
gonna
it.
work. Okay.
Oh, it saves them. Interesting.
Oh.
So 0. Wait, what is it?
0451.
Well, 451 it is.
Okay.
451. Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Damn.
Not here.
Damn. Not here.
Yes, here. Woohoo.
Yeah, right here. In the darkness, the dead shall be offered a light and holy spices so that it may find a way out of this cursed place. Well, I do not know what to do just now.
Puzzle hard. Shoot the wall till the gap opens up.
Cry until someone takes pity on you.
No.
Maybe I do have to jump down the hole.
Into the pits.
Into the pit. Wait. Look. Between the radioactive signs. It's the
Sure.
same. It's also 3x3.
It doesn't tell you how to solve it though.
No, it does not. It's just also 3x3, which I think we've seen in a bunch of stuff already.
Down the pit.
Down the pit.
Yeah. Can we get a shout out to the pit?
I'll ask this of chat. Do I have to jump down the pit in order to progress right now? Or is there a way for me to solve those puzzles? Don't tell me what the solution is. Just yes or no. Do I have to jump down in the pit now? I'm
We go
saying yes. Yes, hole.
Yes, hole.
Alright. Whole time.
Into the hole.
Into the hole. Oh, there's a ladder. Okay.
Okay. It's not just a
I've
pit.
grown quite accustomed to holes being pretty permanent, you know?
Yeah.
I'm seeing something move down there. I'm seeing a lot of stuff move between the grades. There's flesh walls and shit, I think.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yay,
That's
flesh.
good. Yippee.
We love the Flash gang. Well, Zoe doesn't.
Don't love it. I prefer to discard the flesh. Oh, a safe room. Yay, we made
Excellent.
it.
It's a schoolroom.
Leave. Thanks.
Leave.
Place.
Leave this place.
Leave this place. Okay, got it. I'm about to, actually. Hey, there's another one of those things. Wow, it is. With a different
Oh.
one.
Yo, it's the Duke Nukem symbol.
Dookie Nookie.
Dun dun dun.
Da da dun. Da 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 da. Right?
Yeah, just that.
That's how it goes.
You get to the next radiation sign. It's just Duke Nukem.
Hey, I'm here.
What's up?
What's up?
It's me, Duke Nuke.
I heard your game could use some less toxic masculinity. So I'm here now to be a better male character somehow. Oh no, I'm being raided at such an inopportune time.
Oh no.
Oh, gang, we're about to quit, but Chubulous and your viewers, hello, welcome.
Hello.
Thanks so much for coming. And Rico, thank you so much for following. Hello everybody, my name is Zoe Gauntlet Queen. I'm an artist, I make my own models and assets and such, and I'm a variety streamer, and also about to quit, so sorry.
Quit streaming forever.
Yeah, I'm done.
It's over. She's done everything she needs to.
Yeah, I've done everything I need to. I've not finished some of these games, that's okay, that's alright.
That's fine.
Captain
Sometimes
Bra-
the best ending's in the middle.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, you know. I'm leaving my viewers to seek out the ending for themselves, and isn't that kind of beautiful? Also, they can,
Exactly.
go forth and forge your own story, you know.
Exactly, it's your legacy is leaving
Yes.
these games unsold for future generations.
And Sparky Fuffles, thank you very much for your egg. Oh, I missed an egg at some point. Oh, I missed Puff Pierrot's egg. Oh, sorry. Oops, sorry. I'm sad. Sad face. I'm sad about it. Oh.
She's sad.
I'm so sad. But yes, this has been my stream. We made good progress. What is going on? You know?
Nothing.
You know, God's down there, dude.
Yo, God.
God? And I can't wait to find out what's gonna happen next time. For now, this has been the end of my streams for this week. So, exclamation point links in socials if you want to link to my little website, so you can follow me on the socials and stuff if you want. I'll put a shadow sticker on stream, even though we're about to quit. Sure. Boop, put them there.
Good luck,
And the best place to stay up to date what I'm gonna do is Discord, because then you get an ad here when I go live, post a schedule. But you don't have to worry about joining a whole big community, because that is because I understand that not everybody wants that for various reasons. But they do want the updates. So all you have if you join the Discord is the stream announcements channel and a channel explaining how to get into the full server with all the community stuff if you want to, but there is no pressure whatsoever. Let's see. My next stream, I do actually know what it's going to be. It's going to be on Tuesday. I'm going to be continuing Kitten Burst together with Punkit. That's going to be very, very nice.
Nice.
So, yeah. Yippee, etc.
Yahoo.
Jody, my wonderful co-host, would you like to plug something while I look for a raid target?
Sure, I will plug myself.
Wow.
I know it's like
Selfish.
always is. It's okay. Well, so
No,
what
I'm
would
sorry,
you
I'm
like
sorry,
me to
I'm sorry,
plug?
I'm
Fuck
sorry,
you.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. No, you're valid. It's okay. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Jody. You can find me at twitch.tv/Dynalope. I stream first person shooters or weird jank games. You can find me there. Please.
Please, 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 please,
I
please,
didn't-
please, please, please.
I didn't know how to end that.
Does anybody know if Daya is gonna be going for much longer? I don't know if anybody in chat is also watching Daya at the same time.
I wasn't, but let me see. I've
don't
been going for 5 hours.
I know, which is why I want to make sure. I'm not.
I'm not
They're
seeing any
not
signs
acting. Yes, they're not. I'm just gonna rate them.
Yeah, they're not
Um,
acting like they're about to end.
Well, the
so-
longer we wait, the bigger the chance that will be too late. So we're gonna raid our friend Dia Fiend, a fellow member of Rorik Siege, just like myself. Very nice, very funny. Is playing Voices of the Void, which is also a spooky ooky game, isn't it? And yeah, we're gonna have a good time there. The raid message will be
girls.
ooks and spooks. That's it. The raid message is ooks and spooks, I guess. All right. So
Oopsie
yeah,
spooksy.
thanks. No, that's it. Ooksy spooksy. It's
Oopsie
this now.
spooks.
It's not ooks and spooks. It's ooksy spooksy. Thank you guys so much for coming. I hope you had a really good time. I really appreciate you, everybody. And I will see you all next week. Goodbye,
See you
everyone.
soon. Bye,
Bye.
Bye bye.